Hey, friends. If you're enjoying the show, head on over to iTunes and rate and review the podcast. Thanks for listening. Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Robin Smith. Time for the Robin Smith Show for Sunday, May 16th. And today I wish my brother, Ryan, a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Ryan. You don't listen to the show, but, no, I don't think any of my family members listen to the show, but, whoa, Oth quit unexpectedly. Problem report for Oth. Do any geeks or nerds know about what Oth is? This is how unedited this show is, okay? When there's an alert system, I'll just tell you about it. Welcome to the show. If you're a first-time listener, if this is your first time, welcome. And if you're a long-time listener, you go the fuck out of here. You get out of here. No, I'm just kidding. You're welcome here too. I have to keep things tight today because I have a very special guest that I'm excited to introduce to you in a moment here. But she and I talked for a while, and she might have broken the record of longest interview here, at least in a one-on-one format. So, but before I get to her, and I should say the topic that we talk about could not have been more appropriate for the movie selection that my wife and I had this weekend. We watched, of course, I'm talking about Doctor Strange. We're catching up on the Marvel Universe timeline, and we just finished watching Doctor Strange. And for those who don't know what Doctor Strange is, look it up. No, I'll just say the part of the movie where Benedict Cumberbatch gets his astral soul part fragment component knocked out of his physical body. Okay, so that's happening in that movie. And then last night, Kelly and I watched Soul. Now, my guest references this movie, so I wanted to watch a little bit of it. We didn't finish it, but it's amazing. It's a great movie. But I wanted to watch it after she referenced it, and sure enough, more astral. Again, I should know what the terminology is, especially after speaking with my guest. I should stop keeping you guys waiting. The suspense is killing me. Although it's podcast format, and of course you already know that today on the show, I sit down with an old friend of mine, Margaux Zion. Margaux is a practicing astrologer, mystic interpreter, creator, counselor, and community organizer. She works to help connect people and groups with the specialness of our soulful identity and growth missions on Earth. With a background in marketing technology and communications, Margaux has served Fortune 500 companies as program manager, experienced strategist, and campaign producer. In addition to her astrological studies and session counseling, Margaux works as a marketing strategist and business advisor, consulting for nonprofit organizations and community groups. So, without further delay, I bring you the one and only Margaux Zion.
Here today. I'm so grateful and astonished to even be talking in this way. This is so cool. But dude, I'm Margaux. You know me. Yes, I know you. We know each other. So for all the listeners, guys, established friendship. But Robin, we know each other from high school, but I currently live in Los Angeles. I am a digital product manager in the wealth management industry. This is not my first industry I've worked in. I have quite a long journey of becoming the Margs, I suppose. But nevertheless, just besides my professional career, I love Los Angeles. I'm a Vespa rider. I'm a, beach goer. I make jewelry. I just enjoy all that there is about the life out here. And it's just it's great to be me.
Yeah. You were filling us in on the Monday hang. You went out to LA what year again?
So I got here in 2018, at the very end of 2018. So I've been here 2.5 years officially, which is a Mars cycle, and we'll get back to that later.
We will. So you got to LA 2.5 years ago. You were born and raised in Montgomery County, or
no? Oh, let's begin the journey. Let's
begin at the beginning. Let's go to the beginning.
Rewind. Here we go. Okay. So oddly, I was born here in Los Angeles. I was born in Pasadena, California, which is an independent city of the greater Los Angeles County area. And I was born there because my New Yorker parents were living there for my dad's first job out of college. And he worked in the aerospace industry, let's say. Mm-hmm. So he and his young wife moved to California, escaping the perils of New York in the early 80s when it was a devastated area. Yes. And they started their American dream out here in California. So I was born there. My sister Danielle was born there. You know Danielle as well. So hi, Danielle. Hope you're listening. And then actually that same job that my father had, he was transferred to the facility that's, again, I don't want to mention too much, but in Maryland. So that's what brought us to Maryland, actually, from living out here. But my parents are not native Angelinos either. They got there by way of New York City. So what I'm setting up here is a love triangle for you of New York, Los Angeles, and DC.
Got it.
Phase one. Yeah. Anyway, so starting in Los Angeles, right, we got to Maryland because of my dad's job.
Can we say what your dad does for a living, though? Because it's a pretty cool occupation.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like, I've always wondered, like, should we wait until he retires for all of us to actually know what he really does?
You know what? We don't have to talk about it. We could just leave it lingering until he retires, and then you'll come back. You'll come back on the show.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my dad is really into like space and like outer space. So he has a job that has to do with that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's really very cool. And I feel very proud to be his daughter. So thanks, Dad, for setting me, out of this world example. So all the dad jokes, guys. So anyway, and they still live there. My parents still live in the house that they lived in when I was a young child. I would say we moved when I was about 5. So started the MCPS system, aged into kindergarten, like right as we moved there, made it all the way through 12th grade on the first try. Amazing. So Robin, that's how I met you and the whole Maryland crew. And so then actually after I graduated from high school, you were probably at my house and we were all out at the pool, like being silly or whatever. And it was like, oh shoot, like we got to go to college. Like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Our parents were asking us these questions, and just the, where do I go to college thing, or milestone of life, I should say. My plan, I wanted to go to college out here in Los Angeles. I mean, a lot of people know me in my New York life, but my OG Marg's like start her adult life plan was to move to LA. Again, mentioning about my dad's career, there were so many opportunities for us to actually come out to LA with him when he would be like on an assignment or something, and we'd get put up in housing. So whereas like kids go to like summer camp or sleepaway camp or whatever in the summer, we came out to Los Angeles, and it was cool because my parents had friends here from when they lived here when they had their children. So like, I felt like I had this whole other life that I cared about so much. So when it came time to consider where to start my life, Los Angeles was the natural answer.
Yeah.
So it was funny because I actually didn't get into any of the colleges that I applied for that year. And my dad brought me out here. We toured all of them. And that year there was a housing shortage in this California state system. And there was, I don't know how to describe it because I don't know all of California education law, but that basically there had to be at least one spot open for every rising high school senior in the state system. That year, they were barely able to accommodate their own demand from the state. So they just, no one, even at Sherwood, could get into any Cal State school that I applied to at the time.
Right.
So, then like, in like April, May, everyone's getting their announcements like, oh, I got into this college, and everyone's like celebrating, so happy. And I'm like, damn, I didn't get to any of my colleges, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. This is so crazy. So, not having been able to go to California, like I had an aunt or something, because remember, I have deep extended family in New York City. So my aunt was like, hey, there's Fashion Institute of Technology and you really like costumes, because I was super into cosplay. That's how me and Joe became friends. Like, we had this like nerd culture thing that turned into like someone in my family noticing and being like, why don't you go to this obscure school that has this obscure program? You can study textile science. And I'm like, sure, that sounds like the greatest idea in the world. Like, whatever. So I get to New York.
So you weren't jazzed about it then at the time?
It wasn't my original plan,
Well,
I
no.
really want to go to California, and I was heartbroken to not have that opportunity. So, it was like New York was a good fallback for me because I really didn't want to go to college in Maryland. Especially where we come from, the Maryland state system is so good. Like we had a first class public education in Montgomery County, and most of those kids move on to Maryland schools. So, I just really I think I applied to like Towson or something, like just as a fallback Maryland school. But
Towson was 13th grade, to be fair, for our high school. So many people went to Towson.
Yeah. And Robin, I'm glad you say that because that was my worst fear, was to go to college as a continuation of high school. Like, period.
A lot of people, I'm sure. A lot of people.
Oh yeah, totally. But for me, like, I'm very lucky. Like, I never got bullied. Like, no one really gave me a hard time in high school. But like, I felt like I just like learned the code by like 10 and a half grade. And I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. Like, I'm fucking done. I'm going to go work. I'm going to go do work release program. And I did. I still graduated, did fine on my SATs. Like, I meet the requirements, but I just was like not even interested in Sherwood by like 11th grade. I was just like, cool, I drive. Bye.
Yeah.
So it was weird because as friendly as I am, like, I feel like a lot of people knew me or knew who I was, and I kind of floated around through each of the groups. But I felt like deep in my soul that like I wasn't going to be staying in Maryland, that I needed to go away, for school.
Yeah. Well, you had already done a move. You were in, what you said, kindergarten or first grade when you moved?
Yeah. So, I mean, I never had the experience of like, so that's what was weird too, is because like my whole thing was I knew that my whole entire life was going to become very different based on where I moved. So again, like any institutional educational facility is going to have people my age group only, people who are just very homogeneous to me and the place in my life that I'm in. And that was like the worst thing that I could think of happening to me. So when I was sad that I couldn't go to LA because, again, like at least that would have differentiated the environment, because kids my own age who were my peers in school would have been California kids and not, other Sherwood kids or MoCo kids or whatever. So because it didn't work out, and again, New York, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool because there's a lot of different kinds of people there. And that's like enough to like cleanse the environment that I did not want to return to. Yeah. And it was like great because my extended family lives there. So like I could always call grandma. My Zeta used to drive me to like the Pathmark, and like buy paper goods and like all this stock up stuff. And like I had my family. So it was neat that I could hang out with all these like amazingly cool people that I met partying in New York and working in New York. And then I had people that I could go to, and I knew New York again because we'd go for like Jewish holidays, so I was aware.
It was like you had the a stranger in a strange land, like new adventure, except not so strange because you have home territory there.
Right. So it was like so like it's weird because it was like almost primed for me to be there as an adult without me being conscious of that as a child. So so I'll get to this love triangle that I'm now filling in all the details of. Thank you for following. This is great. So, New York, I had a great life in New York. I really did. Like, so anyway, I did get into the college. Yay. I lived in the dorm, which also was so limited. And like, okay, I will mention the college I went to is the Fashion Institute of Technology. That is it's a SUNY, State University of New York accreditation. So like, just like Joe went to Hofstra, like I went to FIT. It's like a real college, guys.
Yeah. So SUNY college. Yes.
Yeah, it's a SUNY college. So, and what was so weird is that like, Robin, I was like the last like accepted class before the time of like Top Model, Project Runway, RuPaul's Drag Race, like all the things that had to do with like personality and expression and design. Like I was the last person in on the train of the way it used to be.
Yeah, that's what it was. If I may, that's what it was in my grad program. It was like, okay, so we're learning about diagnosis and we're on DSM-4, but next year DSM-5 is coming out. So like we're learning all about the axis, but it's about to all be restructured.
Completely. Isn't that so crazy that we have that same like harmony there? Yeah. So anyway, like, so I get to New York and I live in the dorm for 6 months and they're like, there's only housing for 6 months. You're 18 and a half years old and you need to find a fucking life, basically, is what, was at the time. Yeah. So, again, luckily I was never going to be homeless because I had family, but like my mom's like best friend from high school, like she owned a place and she was like renting it to me. So like, again, this is like now strike two of Margaux, going along with opportunities that were meant for me and that had surprises for me in places that I would never even think to look. So this is brilliant, by the way. So anyway, FIT, awesome, and like, it was weird because when I moved there, so like my continuation, so the end of high school for me was like class and then working at Old Navy on Rockville Pike. Like that's, loved it. And like, so the continuation of my 18-year-old life was moving to New York and getting another retail job and then having school. Like, I just thought it was the same thing plus one and at a different mall, basically.
Yeah.
What a mall that I picked, New York, right? From like,
seriously, no, but of anywhere in the whole world.
Yeah. Thank you. On planet Earth, on this one we're on. Yes. Totally, right? So I get to New York and I'm just like, all right, so I got to get a job. Okay, cool. And like, I've always like cared about earning money, right? So like I worked at Old Navy, like I said. My first actual money-making scheme was dealing Beanie Babies on eBay. That is the truth. I have been an eBay member for 22 years.
Wait, how old did you start this dealing?
I was in high school. Maybe I was 14 or 15, probably. It wasn't hard. And like, people were honest. They sent me checks. I sent the Beanie Babies. Like, this was the new world, baby. This is like Margaux as a teenager. This is like that's what I needed to do to earn money.
Yeah, that's cooler than me. I wash dishes. I wash dishes to earn money. You're like, I'm not washing.
Some kids get a paper route, whatever, but anyway, like I'm a Beanie Baby dealer, basically, at age 14.
The original.
So I'm running my market online, basically. And it's like funny because now I work in wealth management. So I'm like, am I just running markets? Like what is my thing? Yeah. So anyway, this is like the craziest talk ever. So I've never told this much detail in the story. So thank you for the opportunity. This is wonderful.
Yes, we need the space to the story deserves that much space. That's
Thank you. Yes. And you know what too? Today, Jupiter went from Aquarius to Pisces today. So I feel like the expansion of Jupiter is just like blowing out every energetic cell from this story. And I thank you for the space, Sir Jupiter, that you are to hold that for me. So, okay.
Yes. Well, that doesn't mean anything to me, but it does to you. And we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that later. Yes.
And some listeners will be like, this asshole doesn't get it, but I get it.
And other listeners will be like, oh my God, how can I book a reading? That's so cool. Like Margaux, whoa, like whatever. So anyway, back to the story. So, again, needing to reproduce the stability that I knew from my life as a teenager, moving to New York, I went to school and I set out to get a job because instead of earning money to go out to Bennigan's with Molly, for example, I wanted to go to Japan.
Yeah, why not?
Just moved to New York.
Not just Japan. Were you called to Tokyo or somewhere else?
Well, so I knew I wanted to go to Japan because I was a big anime fan, like most of high school. But then when I got to New York, I met actual Japanese people for the first time in my life. So I was like, yes, like these people like are so awesome. And like at the time, like trends were coming out of Japan. Like now it's like K-pop and K-life. It was Japan, like, whoa, at the time. And especially in the fashion world, because that's where I was linking into as a new college student.
Sure.
So anyway, I started meeting Japanese people and I was like, dude, like, again, universe puts like guides into my life because I had this dream of going to Japan before I met any of these awesome people. Like, and these people became family to me. Like, again, didn't know anything about past lives at the time, but my God, it's like I met these people. We didn't even speak the same language. And I'm like, this is a thing. And we became fast friends. So anyway, college for me was weird though, because like I went there and I had a lot of fun meeting people. But again, I was progressing faster at my job, at work. I was like, I want to be there. I want to hang out with those people. I'm learning how to become a makeup artist, because of this job that I had at the cosmetics counter. And that's a whole story in itself. Yeah. But I'm trying to say here that my goal was to earn enough money so that I could do something wonderful, period. And that was my main motivator in life at the time for my whole teenage years. So, okay. So I finally get the money. I go to Japan. I'm just like, yes. Like it was weird. It was like, I was so happy to go, but I didn't really realize what a big fucking deal it was for this teenager to like take her ass to Japan with all the money she earned on her own. Like, oh my God. Like I haven't even processed that trauma yet. Like I'm having that now. And I'm just like, oh my God, Margaux, you are the bomb. Like, oh my God, you bad bitch. You went to Japan what? Like
self-funded? Yes.
Self-funded, no friends. I just went, and it was like great because again, I had the friends from college who were like, well, here's all the places we like to go and hang out, blah, blah, blah. So I see you, Japan. I raised you 2 more trips. I went 3 times. Like as my friend graduated from college, I would go visit them and we would go hang out where their brother was DJing. Like, it was so brilliant. It was so great. So needless to say, I had a really fun life. Like I had really, like for your average 18 to 22-year-old.
What city were you in Japan?
In New York.
Oh, I was thinking, but I thought you said you went to Japan 3 more times.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, trips, like I went there for like 2.5 weeks at a time to party. But all right. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rewind. The goal wasn't to move to Japan. The goal was to travel to Japan as a tourist.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm trying to get my head into, were you going to Tokyo or are you going to another city?
Oh, Osaka. Sorry.
Osaka. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Kansai, what's up? Kansai, represent, y'all, what's up? So anyway.
I don't have any, to date, I have no listeners in Japan, but after this episode, I don't know. Maybe
one. I'll share it with my Japanese friends. I'll share it with my Japanese friends. Yeah. So, okay. Anyway, right. I'm in New York and I'm like, okay, all I care about is going to Japan and earning money. So FOT lets me know that I'm going to be put on academic probation.
What year are you again?
This is like 2004, probably. This is
okay. Sophomore year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So at the time, I'm not living on campus. I'm living in the jungle of New York City, having my own time. And, I was funny because like where I was that day was like dog sitting for my mom's friend's mother, like while she was away. And like, she had this like super like penthouse, glamorous Manhattan apartment. And I went there to dog sit who like had his own environment on like a balcony that wrapped around the whole building. Like that's what we're talking about here.
A luxury dog. Yes.
Oh my God.
Life of luxury. Yes.
The dog is more wealthy than me. Okay. Like hands down. So it was really super cool. And, I remember getting this letter and then having to talk to my parents and be like, I think I'm getting kicked out of college. And my parents were like, you have 2 choices. You can support yourself or you could come back here and go to Montgomery College. Now let's just drop, it's funny because for all the people who are just listening and could not have seen the grotesque face I just made, it was bad, Robin. It was really bad. Like, wow. Yeah. So like, and for all the people who maybe are a little slower to catch on, I really didn't want to move back to Maryland and go to MoCo, which would have been like even worse than going to Towson for me. Yes. So therefore I was like, I'm going to hustle now. I'm going to take my business from a 2 to a 10. Now. Yeah. And my parents, like, I got to tell you, I have great parents. Like they really, like, they weren't like, you're in trouble. They weren't like, you need to move back here. They didn't shame me. They were like, figure it out, kiddo. Like you do this. Right. They weren't like, oh, it looks like she can only perform at a 15-year-old level. Let's treat her like a 15-year-old. They were like, oh no, you got to figure this out. They were like, you're an adult. And these are New Yorkers too, right? So they also know what, like, I don't know if they thought I was going to like come home crying and being like, I can't live like this or something. Yeah. I never came home. I lived there for another 12 years. I went from that makeup counter job to corporate for the #1 fashion makeup company in the fucking world. Everybody knows this brand. And like, how did I shoot up from like that moment of like, wow, I'm getting kicked out of college to literally having made it in New York City?
The Margaux, that is the question. That is the question. Yeah. Yeah. Now what's the answer?
I guess I'm just great. I don't know.
No, that doesn't sound. No, in other words, to reformulate the question, it's like, oh, my parents are graciously giving me this option, because another set of parents would be like, what? Like just like not involved, right? They're basically like, you can do this or this, and you're like, well, there's no way in fucking hell I'm going home. So now I'm gonna stay in here and, like you say, take your business from a 2 to a 10. So how do you muster the energy, the motivation, the confidence, the hope? What sustains you? I mean, all of that stuff. Because there are people who might be listening to this who are like, I'm in that situation and I don't know what the fuck to do. And yet you're on the other side of that struggle. Yeah. So how? What?
Okay,
what was involved?
Things. So people out there who are listening, I have to tell you that you are on a path that only belongs to you. That you are truly, you will be presented the opportunities and you will have no fear about anything that you are meant to experience, period. So for me, like, I knew that I was going to live an adventurous life. So even though I had some of my stability taken away from me, you know, in the form of my daily life or my education or the funding that my dad paid for me to go to that college, not my housing, but because again, I got kicked out. So I had to like make money for rent at like 19 in New York. Yeah. So, I, to the listeners, I'm telling you, like, if you feel it in your soul, you say yes to it. You absolutely do. And you trust it, you move forward with it. And I was so not conscious of it at the time. I just like kind of absently just was like, okay, like, here's the next thing I'm doing. And I guess that's what I'm doing because it was the thing that was right in front of me. You know, I was not thinking long-term. I was not thinking what I wanted to be when I grow up. I was not thinking find a Jewish lawyer and start making babies. I was not thinking any of those things. Yeah. So it's hard because I do have to say, after deep analysis of this, like of myself, psychologically, emotionally, everything, like I understand that I'm a very energetic person. I understand that. So, you know, if you're in a situation where you are not like personally strong enough to encounter transformation, you know, like that could be a lot in perspective. Like, you know, don't just because I'm like level 10 energy all the time and you're like not, maybe you're like a, you know, 7 or an 8 or whatever, like, you don't have to go beyond just to prove anything to yourself, to anyone else. Just go with what works. I feel
hold on. When you say not strong enough to encounter or endure personal transformation, you could flip that and say strong enough to resist transformation, because people are presented with opportunities to transform and they're like, oh no, that looks really unpleasant and uncomfortable. I'm going to stay in my tent, in my bubble safely, you know? So, I mean, that's just another way of looking at it, but yet you're basically talking about the opportunity to transform oneself. And if one actually even has a choice, that's a whole separate conversation, but let's presume that one has a choice. What you had the opportunity to transform yourself. This was not the first transformation, but one of multiple.
Yeah. So, I mean, so what I mean for transformation, it's weird. I said this to my sister recently. We were talking, she was visiting in Palm Springs and I met her. I drove out from LA and it was so fun. We had the best weekend. Highly recommended. Come to Palm Springs. I will meet you there. We will party. It's so much fun. But I told her, I was like, you know, anything that you do, and context deleted, make a choice before the choice is made for you. You know, because what my parents were allowing me is an opportunity to make a choice. And unconsciously, I made my own decision every single time. And I know that some people are more reliant on others to make their decisions, or they have other constraints, etc. So I think what I'm trying to say is that responsible risk is something I personally endorse. And I hope to, like, you know, speak on this in the future, truly about responsible risk, because, you know, you can be adventurous and also not be stupid, you know, or like you can be adventurous and not involve, you know, like delicate family member relationships where it becomes a burden for everybody else. So I don't know. I think, you know, what really gave me the ability to do a lot was my own energy level to collect the requirements and execute, you know, on the command, basically. And I did that for myself. And a lot of people helped me along the way by being friendly with me or taking me places or showing me makeup artistry. That became a very important skill set for me in my career and my life. But, you know, it's so, I don't know. I know now, I didn't know that my experience was my experience through any of it, but my experience now, looking back on it as a spiritually evolved person, I'm like, wow, like this pattern has always existed. Like, Margaux, you've always been the same person. And like, whether or not you restart your life or transform, or that the choice is being made for you or whatever, like, you are still that hustler who sold Beanie Babies on eBay and you know, I just like love thinking about it that way because, you know, I've definitely like just experienced loss and grief and so much, you know, change and things being taken away from me and me like throwing things out and just things, you know, life literally being visually and emotionally different many times in my life. But, you know, for that to happen, like for me to look back on it and just see that I'm still the same badass, like at my essence, like it took the spiritual awakening to understand, like, this is all just part of my wild story, you know? And it's, I don't know, it's kind of like Forrest Gump. Like, you know, he's just like a regular, simple dude, but he has this like amazing life and he meets all these crazy people.
Yeah.
And like,
yes.
you know, but he's always been that like lovely heart, you know, felt person who cared about his family and his loved ones. And like, he was just an essentially brilliant person. So I don't know. I'm not like comparing myself to Forrest Gump or like trying to say I'm like more or whatever, but I do feel like a pretty good person. And I do feel like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so it's kind of weird because I think so I guess, you know, to quickly zap through the rest of the story. So I was able to, you know, kind of be in my fashion life that I lived in New York for over a decade. It was so great. But then along comes a time that in astrology we all experience. It's called the Saturn return. It happens between 27 and 29 years after your birth. So, you know, at 27, you have a Saturn return. Then at 54, you have a return, and then so on and so forth every 27 to 29 years.
Is the 54 the midlife crisis for most people?
Yes. Yeah. And just putting it out there, like in the recording, Robin, if there's like any type of like astrology, you know, relationship, understanding, like little bits and pieces that you want to sprinkle into your practice, or if you're curious, maybe I can give you a reading one day and like just kind of walk you through how all that energy works and that understanding works. Yeah. So anyway, so my Saturn return came, you know, that's the time in life that it pushes us to mature in some way. So that's when people have, you know, finished grad school, they're starting to move in with their girl, or they've been living with their significant other for amount of time, and then they decide to get married, let's say, you know, or a lot of families start, you know, in that time frame. People buy their first house if they do, not millennials and younger, but just saying, you know,
are we equating it to, like, again, people go through multiple transformations. For example, puberty is a transformation, right? But like this Saturn return that you're talking about the ages 27 to 29, we're talking about the adult, mature individual that revolutionizes the way they see their place in the world, or what gives them purpose, meaning, etc. Is that kind of close to it?
Yes. I would say that is a relatable delineation. So awesome job, Robin. But yeah, so anyway, you know, when it rolls around, it basically asks you to get serious about your life. So I was like, okay, well, I have this great career and I feel really happy about all of this, but is this really what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? Like, I was like very confused about that. And it freaked me out because I was like, this is the bomb, you know, like, I don't want to not like this. This is like so dope. This is what I worked so hard for, and can stick it to everyone who was like, you dropped out of college or whatever. Like, I made it anyway. Peace, deuces. Yeah. So anyway, so I decided, oh my gosh, like I want a family. Like, I want to be, you know, with loved ones. And I come from such a nice family. Like, I'd love to, you know, grow that for myself. So I did. I made a very committed relationship decision with someone who lived in Maryland, someone who I'd known since childhood. And I came with the soul contract to marry, you know, definitely. And that had its own twists and turns, but nevertheless, I got to Maryland. Like, that's what needed to happen next. Like, I needed something so astronomical to take me out of this astronomical situation I was in New York. Yeah. In my mind and culture, the only thing that would be that is the promise of marriage. Yeah.
Also you're still following your heart.
Absolutely. Right? And that's why it was so like, and so looking at it back on it now, it's always this weird disguise. You know what I mean? There's always this groundwork that's like laid for me before the big thing happens. So and we'll get into patterns and stuff later, but like, oh my God, like when I looked back, you know, 10 years away from it, I'm just like, dang, oh my God, like how I could never have known what that was, you know, at the time. And
No, exactly. You're talking about the contrast between being in the trenches and it's like, this is supposed to be something, or it's either working the way it is, or it's not working the way it's supposed to. And then looking at it 10 years retrospectively and saying, I guess that is what needed to happen in order for me to be doing this, you know?
Isn't that crazy? So like, let me color that by saying like, this person who I left my life in New York for was someone that had a crush on me when I was 13, you know, like someone as a child. And at the time I was like not interested in boys at all. I just wanted to like do whatever weird shit I was doing. I just wanted to do that. So that in itself, like, did I know as a teenager that this person would, and I would ever get serious? Hell no. Like, hell know.
Couldn't
So,
have.
That's why it like kind of made it, like, I think, and kind of going through that situation and feeling all the shame that I did surrounding it. I also like to heal from it in the first place, but I always remind myself now, like, it couldn't have been scandalous. You know what I mean? Like if I did it out of like vanity or some like salacious, I don't know, like something terrible, you know, like just something awful, then that would be vain and kind of like a
like
not
if you had ugly motivations, right?
Yes, like that it would be the opposite of love. So if you perform something that is love, you get rewarded. If you practice something that is hate, you are not punished. We're not doing that. This is not church, and I'm not into any of that. But you know that you would not advance. Let's say, you know, you would need to work through it until you were able to advance, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, for that to happen, it was so like wonderful and such a fairy tale like experience for me because I'm a Pisces. So like, I just want the whole like princess dream. Like, I think that's real, basically, and I have not given up on that yet.
Wait. So hold on.
Yeah.
What months are Pisces? Because I'm like, that sounds like my oldest daughter.
So Pisces is from February 19th to March 20th.
Okay, then no, it's not her. It's neither of my daughters. It's neither. That's my say it again. February what?
19th to March 20th.
Oh, so none of the women I live with. Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. All good.
Yeah.
And we'll do a really separate episode, all astrology. We're gonna talk about everything and do it. It's gonna be so fun because I'll like do the live and stuff. Like we'll look at the chart together. It'll be so cool. Awesome. Anyway, so you know, having this beautiful vehicle of love and of this like true fantasy, like, you know, experience, I got that. You know, this person and I were really in love, and this person had been trying to get my attention for so long, like really Princess in the Castle Margaux, like holy moly. So, you know, I really like, it was a really horrible experience to go through, and I, you know, still a major trauma of my life, definitely. But like, the packet, it was weird because I think on the darker side of processing my New York to Washington return was just that like I did it for a noble cause, you know, my own growth, which was to marry and have children and be closer to my parents. It's like lovely Maryland life. You know, I gave up on, because remember, when I moved away from Maryland, I wanted to get away. Remember?
That was, the Maryland life was not the dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
So see me laying ground for the future, just like the whole energy of my life. So remember, I left not with no intention to be a Marylander as an adult. So when I came back, a lot of my decision was made out of just like I said, I was experiencing this panic about like having reached the glass ceiling of my New York life, that it would be over, that cycle of my life was going to be done. And at the same time, I was starting up, you know, with this person who adored me, you know, so that was like, okay, like I could compromise Maryland for this life. Definitely. Absolutely. And that was part of the discussion. And that's why I refused this person in the past, because I just wasn't available to give up my New York life. I still had missions to complete in the New York, on planet New York.
Yeah.
So anyway, so coming back, but I also didn't feel like resentment. I was just like, you know, I didn't realize that when you move, like, I mean, and I had moved a lot of times in New York. I lived in so many different apartments, but like leaving one region to go to another, the energy is different. So, you know, like even going into Giant, you know, and only I'm just like, wow, this place is so big because I shopped at bodegas for the last 15 years. You know what I mean? Like totally just environmentally fucked me up.
Yeah.
So, we go to, so what I needed was actually like a lot of people to help me make that transition back to the Maryland life, because I'd never lived that. You know, I didn't go to College Park bars. I didn't visit people at college. Like I didn't know anything about living in Maryland as an adult because I did it in New York. Mm-hmm. So I really came back to like the mirage of something that I knew, but I jumped into that hole and it was just an illusion. It was just an illusion. And I fucking fell past that into like literally the darkest part of my life ever. So, because it was hard, right? Like I was expecting to leave one life to start another one, but even that one wasn't there. So I was like net -2, you know, on stability in my life. Yeah. So it was hard, you know, it was really, really hard. And there were definitely like months I just like could not get out of bed. I was like so fucking crushed. And, you know, it was like, and it was tough too. Cause like, this was the first time I was ever not making money too, you know, like that was, cause again, this has always been something to like keep me afloat, so that I could have my independence.
Mm.
So, anyway, so I did get a job, in the Washington area. Like, there's no consumer marketing jobs because, again, I worked in the fashion industry. I knew everything about selling lipstick, nothing about selling internet services, nothing at all. So I did get a job at a, telecom company that is also a pretty major brand, I will say. I'm not saying the brand, but I'm saying that it was huge, and you definitely know what it is. So this is my second one now, like I was like, oh my God, I left this whole glamorous career behind. Is my resume going to fall to shit? So I get this job and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's a good enough name. Like I'll get good. I'll have a good experience out of this. But I was also still so like, I wasn't really healed from my trauma with my relationship situation. So I was like trying to start this life, but I was like, just not ready on so many levels. And the job wound up not lasting that long, like there was a big layoff, like because this company was bought by another company, and it just sold it off recently. You can figure it out if you want to, but I hope you have more of a life than doing that. So anyway, but it was weird because at that, I needed to learn very specific skills that, again, never had I ever would think that I would work in an IT environment ever.
Yeah.
I sold lipstick. What am I doing? And then selling lipstick evolved into marketing, and then marketing evolved into marketing technology. So, what systems are powering web experiences or email experiences, channel marketing. This conversation, basically is all people like in the industry I work in. So although I worked at that company for a very short time, the just shift into technology and technology culture, literally, I didn't even want to go to college. Like, and now I'm a computer scientist. Like, what the H? Like, how is this happening to me? And it's funny because actually tying this back even further, my major, my first of 3 majors at FIT, I did eventually graduate college. So thank you everyone for your support and love during that really insane time. But like my first major at FIT, which I have an associate's degree for, is textile development and marketing. It's basically textile science. So like we learned on looms, we learned how to program like jacquard looms. So like think of like a tapestry that like has an ornate like scene in the garden or something. Like programming that is like actually the basis for how computers were born, and like the programming and all the binary and all the like the whole grid basically of how looms were coded by hand for centuries. That same patterning is what computer software and what,
Is that right?
all of computer science is based on. So booyah! I was a scientist before you were, OG. Like I studied the ancient shit, booyah. And like, again, this major, like I didn't even pick it. It just happened. Like, Robin, I'm telling you, everything I've done that like has marked me, didn't plan it. It just happened, and it gave me some incredibly like ridiculous story and life skill that were really important for me to take to the next level of my life. Yeah. So anyway, I'm working at this technology company. Didn't work for that long, but I really loved the people, and I really, again, learned so much from them and learned that things could be done in a structured environment so I worked in creative careers for so long. So it was very unstructured. It was just people like would work all crazy hours, would have like the most diverse personalities. We had, oh my God, just the cross section of people that oh my God, that's a whole other episode. So anyway, so to finish this story is that like, going from having the computer thing or being a programmer at FIT to coming into IT culture in Northern Virginia, I was like, where's this going? Like, okay, like I just lost this job basically. I was still dealing with the grief of my stuff that I was saying before. And I was actually not working for about 7 months between, when that job ended and when I started my next job, which I'll get into very soon. And like that was the time that I needed to actually grieve for my dreams that were broken, like I really had time to like, because I wasn't in the shock anymore of the like initial fallout, it was like almost 2 years later that I was really able to like move through, like, I'm in Maryland now. And like, what am I going to do? Like, should I find another husband? Should I try to be an executive or something? I don't really like the marketplace here. I'm not really into like the whole Washington thing. Yeah.
You were no longer looking at a mirage or an illusion or falling through nothingness. You are now planted on a scape a scenery that is
Yeah.
just like, okay, now at least I'm standing on solid ground and I'm grieving the loss and I'm orienting myself to like, where am I going? Yeah.
Exactly. So having that time, it was actually interesting because at the tech company that I was working at, I had made really close friendships, and one person particularly I became very close with, and emotionally intimate with. And that person, I was kind of like, well, I like this person, so maybe I will stay here. Like I came to Maryland very much with the intention to anchor myself there in a traditional sense. So when it didn't work out the first time, then I was like living with this person again, a very close relationship of mine. And our friendship grew into a cohabitation situation. Oh my God, there's like, I'm not even overlaying all the other stuff that happened in Maryland too, that was not that great either. But going back to the love triangle here that I'm trying to get through is that, there was so much like love in that relationship, but it wasn't really rooting. Like I felt like it just wasn't really rooting the way that was still important to me for the happiness of my life, or the way that I wanted to experience a romantic relationship or whatever. So, I kind of said to myself, like, you know what, like, no matter what I do or where I go, I know that my life will spring up around me. Like I did that in New York. I did that here in Maryland. Like I can literally go anywhere and I'll be fine. Like it will be okay. So in that moment of, really, it was weird because like on one hand, I felt so upset that I was still not getting my dreams. Like I was still like chasing this like family and like love and like home and just like being very traditional. Like I just
By the way, were those your dreams?
That's a great question, Robin. Thanks for asking.
I'm just saying.
It was kind of the example, and again, like my parents were never like, you have to do this, but like, and shout out to boomer parents. Listen, I'm not going to go too deep on that one, but they had a certain home and family experience and they taught us with what they knew. Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of like the last age type person who had some true heartfelt connection to wanting that as a marker of a life milestone, of a life experience, as something meant to be done, whatever. So it was weird because I wasn't rebelling against that. I very much wanted that. I just assumed it would happen in the context and flavor of whatever life that I happened to be living. So New York, sure, I figured I'd meet some Jewish guy from the Upper West Side. We'd get married and it'd be great, whatever. Yeah. Or some guy downtown, or I don't know, a designer, or I dated an architect. Like, oh my God, the boyfriends, will do another episode. But anyway, we need like a scribe to like, take notes on all these like subtopics that we can go
good.
into.
It's recorded. We'll come back. Yeah.
So, so like, again, I was like really kind of breaking up with, like, it's like, I think it was like the first time I ever was like, well, what if I don't have kids? Like, am I willing to sacrifice that? Again, not because I had any one intention for any bit of my life. It's just all been happening around me. So, I was like, all right, I'm going to try and manifest like, but not consciously, but I was like, the idea was to manifest a husband in Maryland. That's just what it was, and by all intents and purposes, that was a-okay with everybody around me because I had boomer parents. Right. So anyway, so, all right. So fast forward to the end of that. So kind of in a moment when I knew like the relationship wasn't going to grow past a certain point, I was like, well, I mean, and it was weird too. Like I bought a house and I like got to, that's another topic. We'll talk about that one separately.
Well, I'm just curious, where did you buy your house?
I bought my house in Leesburg, Virginia, because I was, by this time I was working remotely for a management consulting firm. Again, another brand that everybody knows. I cannot believe, again, for not having gone to like Harvard or Wharton or something crazy. Like I've been in some pretty high places, I have to tell you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I I started working for this new company, and it's the type of place that people work for a really long time. So I just figured, great, this is my stability. I'll work for this job forever and just die here. Fine. Because that was just the expectation. Like everyone felt like that. So again, I'm just like soaking up the environment. Like I had done that in New York in cosmetics. Then I did that in Japan on my travels. Then I did that in the IT world, working for the tech company. And so like, again, not knowing that these were things I need to pick up on. These are things that are sponging around me as opportunities, essentially. So anyway, I got to work for this like really reputable place. I'm living, again, working from everywhere. And at the time, my partner was still working for that tech company that was out in Loudoun County. And by then, I'd worked there too. So we had a lot of friends locally. So for all intents and purposes, it would have been a lovely place to just like stay for a while. But it was weird. I bought the house on my birthday, actually. I'm a big birthdays person. Hello. And that goes into like astrology and like why I care about birthdays.
I'm a big birthdays person. That's an understatement. Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, I bought my house on my birthday. I was like, I'm just going to be a badass and just go for a big purchase now. Like, why not? I want this, I'll just, go do it. Like making a life-changing decision like that was as easy as like going to Chipotle, basically, and picking what you want. Like, oh my God, Robin. So anyway, so I buy the house and like, they tell you, oh, it's going to be this many months, but we can't guarantee that. So blah, blah, blah. So it was weird because like they gave us a closing date, the purchaser. They gave me a closing date. And then they were like, oh shit, like there was some problem with like the city water, like not connecting to the development in the right way. So they were like having to wait for like the city inspector to come out. And it was just like this whole long thing.
So this was a new neighborhood.
A new construction. Yeah. Beautiful townhouse. Like, oh my God. And, I lived with my parents actually like for some time while I worked at the tech company. So I was able to save a down payment for a home because I lived at home. Sure. And that in itself, me, after living in New York for 12 years, going back to my parents' house was really horrible for me, like ego, like, oh my God, how could I live my whole life and then be in my parents' basement? This is crazy. Yeah. So again, these just like very, high highs, low lows. Like it was just really hard, but yet I'm still walking and talking. So I guess I've endured them, but anyway, I'm hoping they kind of flatten out over time because I'm getting old and now I'm getting tired of this shit. So anyway, so all right. So I get the house. So like they postponed the closing date and I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. I'm like, I don't even want the house anymore. My relationship's not going well. I don't like, I hate living here. I'm over Virginia and not Virginia. Like I just knew I didn't belong in the DC area, so I just felt very repulsed by it. And it was hard because like none of my friends could support me because they're like, why? Like life is fine. Why are you so like angry about this stuff? And it was just like, like the other side of magnets, like, how magnets attract each other. Anyways, it was just, I felt like I had to go.
Your soul was saying,
yeah. So anyway, it was weird because because of the city stuff, I was able to make a complaint that got raised to the president of the builder that I got every penny back on my deposit and I was able to exit the house contract.
Good for you.
And I felt like that was definitely I felt like an angel actually helped me with that. I feel like there was like actual assistance on that one because I was not meant to move to fucking Leesburg. Which is bizarre. Cause again, I wanted it. Like I wanted that. That was my goal was to do that in Maryland or in the DC area. So again, insane. So I kind of like went through another like period of my life where again, my problems are just like so abstract. Like none of my friends, like I know they love me and they listen to me for hours and I thank them all, but like, I just didn't feel like people understood the severity of my life, like it was just so fucking severe to me. So, so anyway, so I got all the money back from my home purchase. So I was like, yeah, I got the money. This is great. I'm going to sit on it because my relationship isn't so good. So my partner and I decided let's rent for another year and decide if we, after the year is over to renew for another year. Like, let's take it slower. But of course, I want to get married so freaking badly. I want to, and it's hard because like my partnership, like I love this person for who that person is so much. And partnering with them to me just like felt so natural. I was like, we're just good partners. But, I really like had this like hang up with like, but I still have this like other dream of becoming a mother, and having children and having a partnership that's that's just really great, you know, just people who are friends and work together, and that would just naturally grow out of the types of relationships I was interested in having.
Right.
So anyway, I got the money back. We did rent for what would be another 10 months. And that house manifestation story that we lived in together, I tried to buy that house before I bought the house that I really bought. So I got to live in my dream house anyway for the last year that I lived in the DC area. And, you know, basically it was weird. Like there was a, you know, kind of like in relationships, there's the moment of no return. Like, you know, this is the fight that ends the relationship. And that was the one that happened. When it was just like, it really rocked me. And I was like, damn it, it's over. Okay. Like I have to accept this now. So just kind of like dealing with that grief quietly, because I really like, for as awful as my first breakup was with my original partner, you know, that I moved to Maryland for,
Yep.
That breakup was so destructive and horrible that I feel like the breakup with my second partner was kind of a blessing, so that I wouldn't have to go through something like that ever again. It was highly traumatic. It really, really, really was more than I can speak on this episode. But you know, like what I'm saying is like I felt like that grief was not grief, but that just sad experience was repaid by the beauty of my conscious uncoupling, you know, with my second partner. And this person is still a very close friend of mine today. And you know who you are. Thank you for everything. So, yeah, like, so anyway, you know, in the conscious uncoupling that happened, I was like, well, I have all this money from this house I didn't buy, so maybe I could use it to move my ass to California. And that's what I did, Robin. Like, again, this is savings I had from 3 years earlier while I was recovering from something else, you know, to save this money so that I could have some type of security in my life. And, you know, that it wasn't for the house I thought it would be for, you know, and I'm renting now. I don't own the home. That's the next thing I'm going to work on. And we can talk about that in another episode. But, you know, so that's why LA is here now. And that's the end of my love triangle that I'm explaining here, is to say that, like, you know, since I was a kid, this was my dream. And I have so many happy memories from, like, my inner child lives here, basically. And being in touch with that and like having fun and being as open in the way and live as openly and authentically as I can. It's just not like that in DC or on the East Coast. You know, it just, like, California, there's a reason why people come here and write hit songs and fall in love and all kinds of crazy shit. Like, I'm here whenever you want to bless me with that. Like, and listeners, I'm looking up at God with both of my hands raised to above my head, asking for prayers. So hopefully that was illustrative. Yeah.
So speaking of God, though, because you mentioned somewhere in that love triangle story from LA to DC area to New York to DC area back to LA. So you did, you made a little V there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a spiritual awakening, or I guess you were talking about it in the maybe you weren't talking about you were talking about the Saturn return, but maybe you were talking about you. When you referenced God, I was like, this conversation is going to get there one way or another, but I'm just very eager to understand about, you know, you said the Saturn return happens when you're 27 to 29.
Yeah.
Well, that's not when you had your spiritual awakening, was it?
Well, that's a great question, Robin. Thank you for asking me it that way, because I want to reply as beautifully. So the Saturn return was, okay. Like, think about if you're going to like launch a new website or like a new program or write a book or something. There's like the prep stuff you do up to the launch. And then there's all the like post-launch stuff that you do, like the book tour and the signing and the podcast and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I didn't know that the pre-work that I was doing was actual pre-work to my spiritual awakening. However, it absolutely was. When I realized and figured out, and also when things started to show themselves as opportunities for me to learn what was happening to me spiritually. Again, we're not talking religion. Not even anywhere near this conversation. I'm just talking about the understanding of who I am as my essential self and how I relate to in the oneness of the universe, period. And all of a sudden, again, never thought about that. You know, like I had a bat mitzvah, like, thank you parents for bringing me into the Jewish womanhood. I really appreciate that. But like, you know, that's my culture and my heritage, right? But like who I am as a spiritual, like, I'm one, you're one, Robin. Everyone alive right now is a spiritual being, right? So having that come in. So anyway, the pre-work. So things, yes, like things, the pre-work was basically everything. So, well, I mentioned Saturn return at the point of me sitting at my desk at the cosmetics company and being like, is there more to life than this?
Yeah.
And as soon as I made that clear vibrationally, all that in the sky started being like, okay, here we go. Thank you for like, because that's the thing when you're in contact with your higher self.
Yes.
You always want to make sure that you're bringing in love and not turmoil. That you're bringing in true essential help.
I should stop you because when you refer to your higher self, I honestly think that there's going to be listeners, myself included, who are going to be like, and what exactly do you mean by that? So people can mean different things. So what do you mean by higher self?
Okay. So, I want to say this in a way that's respectful of everyone. Also, like I know that there are people who are still.
You can offend people. It's okay.
No. This is me as a vibration, and like as funny as it would be to like say horrible stuff right now, and for everyone listening, see me laughing. Like I am laughing behind the scenes here. Yeah. But, I think as I've become more spiritually aware of myself, I want to never make someone feel bad for something they don't understand or to freak out or feel ashamed. So I try to I just want to say, as I explain what the higher self is,
sure.
I want to explain that with respect, to everyone that, right, there's earth, there are the heavens, and generally, and to some people, there is an underworld as well, right? So there are these 3 planes of existence. So the way that most people in traditional religions or customs or, whatever, see that like I'm a man or I'm a woman actually, but like, I am human on planet and I am in service to God, which is in another plane up in heaven, and only God lives in heaven along with, whatever other spiritual beings may be there, depending on your culture. So that is not entirely wrong. So religions, good job for trying. Like you got to kind of sketch it out first before you like get the finished product.
Yes.
And I really hope, Robin, are you good? Like, are you following me so far?
I'm following with you, baby.
Okay.
I'm following.
Right. Okay. So, and when I say it's not wrong, because basically like there is our soul, like we are basically, fragments of this great oneness. And again, religions, like they use the G word, God, like that's, a way to describe that is one. Mm-hmm. And so it's, and because not every human, so when we are born, we don't have memories of any other dimension, that we've ever been to, because that would not serve us in being human, that would make us insane, right? So the higher self basically is the part that is always connected to the divineness of, our connection to God, our connection to the universe being all beings that are, and all beauty that is, all love that can be, that can vibrate on a micro quantum space-time continuum place, that we are actually all of that together. So,
and let me just stop you real quick.
Yeah.
If you were saying everything that you were saying right now, but we were having this conversation and it was just a little over a year ago, I would have been like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and this is all the same hogwash that I've heard many other people who I disagree with. But I think we talked about this when you came on the Monday hang, that I had a spiritual awakening last year.
Okay.
And so I have a place to put all of what you're saying, and it's completely coherent, and I understand.
Cool. I'm glad that this is happening now, because Robin, so all right, to finish the higher self thought. Yeah. So we always basically have someone at the controls, in the higher realm, basically. And we're just a piece of that, acting out certain experiences and lessons that we're supposed to have for the ultimate, many experiences that happen across all kinds of places that we're not in as humans. So becoming spiritually aware for a very long time was not like as a like a level of acceptance or cultural understanding. There was a lot of dominance by Christianity for a very long time. It had a lot of influence over much of the world for centuries.
Still does.
Still does. And then you have Eastern culture, you have South American, and like you just have ancient civilizations that kind of evolved into their own spirituality rituals, let's say. And much of us here in the Western world like actually got raised and were shamed if we did not completely comply with, agree to, and apologize for the devotion to the one God. So I grew up Jewish. Again, totally fine. No one's losing their mind over Judaism in my body, like literally whatever. But like in order to become spiritual, so I'm saying this actually to you, my friend, and to everyone out there, is that we happen to just be in a time in the space-time continuum right now that the average maturity of people having all of these like life after life after life experiences, this is a huge shift. People are not being imprisoned or murdered or burned at the stake or whatever for having an expression of spirituality, basically. Yeah. And that had to be confined in the church system for mechanisms of Saturn.
Well, hold on, just to be clear though, there are societies currently in the world that it's not okay to speak about religion, or you can be disappeared for not believing.
So for all of us,
but you're saying for the majority of the world, we've never been in an ecosystem in different societies and cultures where you can deviate from what's prescribed or without existential consequences.
Sure. So simplifying that, like
actually, I'm sorry. Actually, I should say though, to the extremely devout, they would say, excuse me, if you deviate from believing in the Lord, there are existential consequences.
Yeah, so and there's a punishment. There's Hail Marys. You got to say all this crazy shit. I'm like, oh my God, why? So anyway,
yeah, please.
Anyway, so if you think about it, like we're all spiritual beings, but we have different types of people doing all kinds of crazy shit on the planet, and there are people who are on this planet to cause harm. There are people on this planet who are here to heal people. There are people on this planet who are here to learn, to gather wisdom, to create art, whatever. Like we all have these purposes that we don't even fucking know of, but somehow or another we execute on them without even realizing. So what I'm trying to say is that like in the age, and there's a lot of influencers, I think, that push it forward. So like even in countries and in civilizations where it is still very fundamentalist and very traditional, there's still like a global conversation about these things because we have things like social media and electronic communications, and things go beyond the borders essentially. So is a tweet about the higher self gonna change a remote village in Central Asia? No, it's not. But there might be one or two people in the community who also have higher spiritual understanding and are therefore activated and knowing, oh, there's places in the world where I'm not going to be killed for this. So I think that the maturity and understanding of it's like a cross section, like this is why, like to me, I'm like, don't identify people by what color their skin is. Just try to figure out if they're a young soul or an old soul, and don't discriminate against them. Just help them more. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, I think that would be like something that I would describe that like, you can be a devout any religion and also be a spiritual person. And there are devout religious people that are not spiritual whatsoever. They're just obedient, or they could be actually quite a negative aspect of the community that they get kind of ridiculed for. So anyway, this is like so deep, but
no, it's exactly as deep as it needs to be. Because first of all, the motivation for my question is because I wanted to kind of understand what you meant, because I'm mapping it onto my own understanding of what a higher self is. If I may, like higher self implies in some way, it implies a little bit of ownership, because otherwise you'd just say higher power, but you're not saying higher power, you're saying higher self, right? Yeah. So it's still located, quote unquote, within the individual. So my higher self, again, maybe people talk about it this way, it's still the ego is still taking ownership of the higher self.
Yeah.
And so it's like, my understanding of it is you have a certain set of values and I have a certain set of values, and the statistical likelihood that our values are the same and rank ordered in the same hierarchical structure is very, very low, right? But like, we might have some shared values, but that those values are not arm wrestled into existence. You don't just say, I would like to value honesty. I would like to value integrity. You have to say, like, I think I want to do that. Let's check it out and test the hypothesis. You'll like figure out what so that the whole ego owning what they want to believe in and what they feel is important is actually not a construct of your felt sense of free will. It's not. So therefore that's what makes it, that's what fundamentally makes it higher, is actually, it's a part of yourself. It's a part of your being that you have no control over. The simplest way is to take it to Disney, Jiminy Cricket, your conscience. Your conscience is your higher self.
I'm a Disneyland pass holder. I do that very suggestion. So thank you very much, friend. Keep going. Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off.
No. So higher self is your conscience. You don't get to say whether you wake up in the middle of the night in a sweat, wondering about whether or not you said the wrong thing. Like, your conscience is what wakes you up. And that's, so anyway, so
I love how you said that, because I think that's actually rooting it in psychology, and probably more along the lines combining your training and your, like, truly your connection to your essence. But the higher self, like, it's weird because your conscience, like you said, like, and that you can't control it because it's just who you are. Like, that's a really great way. That's a great seed to plant for anyone who thinks they're going through a spiritual awakening, because it is extremely hard to understand these like non-physical realms that you will become aware of as you ascend into higher and higher states of consciousness. Like, it is crazy. It is crazy.
Yes, it is.
I feel, oh my God, I'm like, wow. I'm like, when is it going to be over? I need to relax. This hurts so much. But anyway, so, all right. So after higher self, so the thing is, and I want to, so I guess taking it up like a notch and a half. A lot of people who have, been part of like either new age movements, or who are into self-study, or who learn from individual spiritual teachers, or who are learned it through their religious community also, is that like, and actually, Robin, let me elevate this even further. I got into learning about past lives and reincarnation because I was really into like PhDs who were doing research in Virginia in neurological sciences about like children who remembered a past life or something. And like that interest, was still very taboo in the 70s. But like these days, there's actual like research grants that go to studying metaphysical or spiritually transformative experiences is what they're called. So I started listening to this podcast, and may I shout it out? Can I promo for them?
Absolutely.
So it's the Past Lives podcast by Simon Bown. Oh my gosh, it blew the door off all the like weird. So this is actually great. So remember, we're talking about like all the pre-work you do for like when your spiritual awakening is official. So learning about reincarnation and past lives, and people who have experienced that or near-death experiences, like how they saw the light and they like they physically, well, not physically, but they have a memory of a spiritual experience of another dimensional place. So that like gave me a really good, I think, infrastructure to start exploring specializations in spirituality, like astrology or hypnosis or other several healing modalities, but spiritual practices is what I'm saying. And again, like, I still don't consider myself a hippie. I still don't consider myself like any other person that I've ever been as Margaux the ego. Like, we are one and the same. Like, we need each other to function. And that's why we are human, right? So getting into and like learning that instead of like, okay, I'm that one person walking on the earth and I'm only here for like, let's say 80 some odd years, and that's it. So what does it all mean? Like, why would I have all of this pain and this joy in life for it to just kind of die? Like, that's so lame, that sucks so much. So
it sucks so much to the individual.
Yeah. Well, to the ego,
when I say individual, I'm saying that synonymously with the ego complex. Yes.
Oh my God. My Gemini is showing, I feel like they're one and the same, like the twins that need to be together and they're always moving. We'll get to Gemini. That's another episode.
Well, yeah, I'm a Gemini. You
are a Gemini?
I am. Oh! Yes, I am.
Oh shit. Oh my God. Okay. Oh my God.
How did you not spot that a mile away, Margaux? Come on.
Okay. So
I'm just kidding.
Okay. No, Robin, we got to do this justice. And I will open up a can of spiritual, of astrological practice on you. And we'll save Gemini for that because it'll mean so much more. I will say it that way.
Okay.
So anyway, the ego and the conscience. So like, I needed to, because my religious teachings my whole life taught me again that it's over after several decades and then you die and some people remember you, but then after that, no one remembers you. Like, so what is the fucking point of it? Like, this seems incomplete.
Unless your name is Abraham, then people remember you.
I guess, yeah.
Or Jesus or Muhammad.
Right, Jesus, yeah. But thank you for saying Abraham because I'm a Jewish person. So.
Well, right. That's right.
Yeah. Thanks, pal. So anyway, so I guess like I was never like, it was weird because I think that like the first step to, so let's unpack that. Like at first I was like, no, I'm not getting into any of the spirituality because I don't want to make God mad. And I'm like, what? I'm not even a religious person, but the trauma of being like, and I don't mean personal trauma. Lots of people have religious parents who are like, you have to go to church and we expect that of you. And then you get to be, there you go. For the audio audience, Robin just raised his hand. So now you know. But yeah, like it's crazy. And I think also out of nostalgia, like we just like, okay, well, I don't really know what to do because none of my friends go to church. So what did my parents do? All right, so I guess we have to go to church. But then I get there and it's all old people and there's like no fun activities for parents. So like there's this like weird gap that like religion bottomed out. And I think that people they're missing out on spirituality because they're not in these congregations at the numbers that they were in generations past. Yeah. So people are turning to this alternative spirituality. It's almost like how I fell into my dark hole thinking that Maryland was going to catch me. Like we are going through that spiritually as a generation, like, oh, maybe I don't dig all of this fire and brimstone, but crystals are cool. Or like, hey, maybe like Pisces, what does that mean? Like people are, it's coming more into the mainstream in such a rapid way that people are, I would say like the literacy is very important, especially when it comes to speaking on spiritual terms. Like, there's just like words that they're just words and they seem overused, but you're really implying a vibration, like you're really implying like an energy that like when I think of like Saturn, like there's no word to like explain how chilling that is to me. You know what I mean? Because it's just a word.
I don't know what you mean. So when you say the word Saturn, it's not chilling to me. I think it's
chilling to me.
Yeah. No, but what do you mean by it? Why is it chilling?
Okay. So I will stitching in. How did
if I'm taking you off the main highway, we can put a pin in that and come back.
Because I want to finish that just so it gets done. So, getting into all this stuff, like I never knew where this was going to go. Like I never knew I was going to like have the spiritual awakening. Like I didn't know I was going to care about astrology. Like I didn't know anything. I was not born with this. No one taught me it as a kid. I don't have a hippie parent. Like for all intents and purposes, like I should have turned out very different than I have, So, but anyway, like, so getting to it, it's been really weird because I think like, whereas in church, like you can kind of talk to other community members and enjoy each other's company and talk about the whatever the reading was for the day. Like you can talk about it. And what does it mean to you and blah, blah, blah. But like, I feel like we don't have we can't find each other by like a label, like as spiritual people. So like as a spiritual experiencer, I don't really want to go to a church because my experiences are mine and I don't expect anyone to have the same ones as me. And I might feel comfortable knowing that you are also a spiritual person. But again, like me and like someone from the deep South who has a very traditional Christian religion, we probably don't have a lot of the same beliefs on things. So anyway, like it's really hard, I think. And thank you again for letting me talk in this space because I feel like there is just so much value in spirituality for people our age. And I'm really sorry that we don't have like a unified way to ascertain that. So we've all kind of been blasted apart, from what we thought was going to continue in our generation. But instead had to kind of like look at all the trash pieces all around you and go like, okay, like this worked for me, and that one does.
But you said a unified way. I mean, when you talk about spirituality in a unified way, it's like a paradox, or it's an oxymoron, because when you talk at the very top of the episode about oneness, of course I know what that means, and I used to associate oneness with, again, like, okay, hippies, psychedelics, like,
yeah,
but I understand, but just look at religions. Which one is the right one? It's like there's like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Unifying something like spirituality is like the impossible task. So
right,
it's paradoxical, because it is actually the structure of being is unified, but all of the individual egos are like, my God does this and you're wrong, and like it's unethical to bury twins, and it's like, no, we bury twins because they're evil. It's like, wait, hold on. Like, people spirituality is very diverse amongst species. We're a weird species.
It is weird, but that's what I'm saying, is that, like, look how our generation has blasted those walls apart and allowed us to coexist in the same, in the differences of our sameness, like just being able to, like, be like, attend like a meditation or a talk of someone who I really like their style, and I can connect with people who vibrate, in a similar way, and I can feel like, okay, like I'm not alone, or I'm not in my spirituality by myself.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, that's all very abstract stuff, but what I wanted to kind of end this chapter of the conversation is to say that, like, Robin, for you, I don't know very many details about your spiritual awakening, and I'm not very sure where you are or how much of spirituality occupies your brain or whatever.
Sure.
But, are you, like, what type of, like, has become spiritually awoke, like, do you feel better? Do you feel more alive? Like, what are the benefits of this experience for you, and what are some of the hardships of it, if any? Like, what's been the product of your spiritual awakening so far?
So I like the question, what are the benefits? And that's now you're sounding like my therapist, who's like, but Robin, what do you get out of this? I'm trying to convince her. I'm like, the greatest benefit would probably be that, let me put it this way. All of the things that people stress out about and are afraid of, I shouldn't say all of the things, because there can be things that are worse than death, but like a lot of your troubles and worries and concerns ultimately map onto, but if then that doesn't happen, that means that this will happen, and if that happens, that means this will happen, and then I'll be all alone, and then I'll die. It's like, so the realization that the ego is an illusion, and that, when I'm dead, when whatever it is that's called me, Robin, is gone, that's actually, there's no fear of that. There's that's a complete, so taking care of fear of death is not a bad benefit. But then also, I mean, it is weird. It is kind of strange to talk about this, especially for listeners who, might not have any really idea about, I imagine there's a subsect of listeners who are atheists who are like, I know God and this, but I just, that's bullshit. Right. And that's the weird thing about my spiritual awakening, is I was raised Episcopalian, and I raised my hand when you were talking about raised by parents who like, you have to go to church. And so, I had to go to church until I didn't have to. And then I was like, I'm not going anyway. I mean, God was anthropomorphized, and there's reasons why. And that does make sense in certain interpretations. But like, I was just like, that's bullshit. I was kind of in the Freud camp of like, it's a father, like Santa Claus and God are both like paying attention to whether you're naughty or nice, basically. Right. Like, and I was a militant atheist. Right. And where am I going with this? The awakening is essentially fitting in all of the claims about when people talk about God, you have to ask them, what do you mean by God? And the awakening from a, and I should just contextualize this, it sits inside of a Buddhist framework, right? The awakening is what the Buddhists call anatta, or no self. So the illusion of the self, the ego complex, it's all very gripping and compelling, because you are a being and you need to not die and you need to like mate and pass on your genes. So like you being a human being, you have a condition, you have a nature. Like guys, like we get erections. There's nothing around that. Like there's fundamental primitive primal drives and desires and fears and all this other stuff. But the higher thing is outside of ape ethics. Okay. It's outside of like a social security number and a bank account and family members and friends and a future and a past. So an ego is illusory, and so is time, and so are boundaries. And if you do enough high dose psychedelics, this will become evident to you. You will unavoidably have this experience. But I didn't have this experience through psychedelics. I had this experience through headless meditation, like essentially understanding what Buddhists call non-separateness, non-dualism. So the sense that my beer glass over here and me are two separate things is a fiction, and it's a necessary fiction for an individual to adapt evolutionarily, right? Long story short, the benefit is when people talk about oneness, it's no longer a abstract concept. It's a direct method experience. You can allow your body to dissolve into a cloud of sensations, and being timeless and boundless also means you didn't start and you don't end. And also, so there's something that's very, a lot of people use words like unconditional love, right? When they talk about, God or a creator. And so I think that's another benefit is all the neuroses of a human temporarily get suspended. So we remember, and then we forget, and then we like spill the milk or whatever, like someone like hits us in our car or our Vespa or whatever, like
my Vespa, beep,
yeah. but shit happens. You're still an ape and you're still existing in a social landscape. So you still have a reputation, right? Like, or at least you think you do. You still have to act. It was really put beautifully. Someone said it's kind of like it's like a battery of two poles. And by someone, I think it's Douglas Harding. I think Douglas Harding said this. The battery of the two poles, the negative charge is the higher self, the global awareness, God, oneness, right? And the positive charge, or flip them, it doesn't matter which charge is which, but the other side of it is the individual, the local awareness, right? The sense of self. And so the benefit is fear of death goes away. Meaning means another thing. Meaning means another thing. And I think there's probably other benefits, but what was the second part of the question you asked me? Yes.
No, I was just like wanting to know your like general, like, how have you changed like since becoming more spiritually aware? Like
I've become more obnoxious. I'm definitely more obnoxious now when I talk about my spiritual. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
How have I changed since?
Well, let me frame this a little bit for me. Yeah. So my spiritual awakening was horrifying. It was very scary. I literally lost my marbles. I did not have any sense of reality. And it was like that for quite a long time. And I had to like also be a human, maintain a job, relationships, etc. Holy moly. It was a very disruptive experience for me, period. So, some people have enlightenment and some people feel euphoric. They're like, wow, I understand it now. Like, I feel so relaxed and calm that I don't have to contemplate my meaningless life anymore. I get it that this is just a chapter of a multitude of lifetimes that make up my entire being and experience. So like, I'm saying that like for me to intake all of that knowing like really screwed me up, it really just drained a lot of my energy and I physically changed. So other people are just like, not as affected by it. So I'm curious for you, did you particularly have any type of reactive experience?
No. Okay. So I want to ask you, how did it screw you up? So let's bookmark that. Cause so for me, my awakening, it was not some painful, you know what it is? I think the pain would come from the death of the ego, the death of the individual. Like that's tragic. Like how could that not be? But for me, I guess there was something so intuitive about that. I think I had already, why? I think I'd done psychedelics before. I didn't take hero doses, so I actually didn't experience ego death. But I had understood, at least conceptually, the claim that the ego is an illusion, and in fact was working diligently to try to direct method experience this. So I was meditating. And one day, I want to say like a couple of years ago, I was in my family room. My water bottle was on the coffee table, And it was, meditation. A lot of people do eyes closed. Eyes open is an important way to meditate too. If you want to be walking around like constantly mindful, you need to know how to meditate with your eyes open, right? So I was staring at my water bottle, and the felt sense that I was on the couch and my water bottle was on the coffee table dissolved. It dropped away. So the separateness, right? The idea that I'm over here and the water bottle's over there. Again, that's a construct that you need to orient yourself in space and time and stay away from predators and find mates and pass your genes on, right?
Yeah.
That fell away for like, I don't know, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe. I wasn't aware of how long, but not long time. And after the end of the meditation, I was basically like, oh, is this what Sam Harris has been talking about like the illusion being the self being an illusion? I journaled. I was like, I think I might have just glimpsed whatever this thing is. Well, little did I know that in fact, indeed, yes, that's exactly what was happening. And then in meditating through Locke Kelly's effortless meditation and Richard Lang's The Headless Way, all of these things eventually allowed for the direct method experience of the individual dropping away. So there's here, like right now, you can see I'm in my basement, the studio / guest bedroom. Like there's here, and then there's I'm here. And the I is extra and it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And here is not just in my basement. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So it wasn't painful. Long story short, it wasn't painful.
Well, I'm glad, because I mean, again, and it's weird because like, I don't know, I feel like I like watch a lot of TikTok videos where people are like, my spiritual awakening was fucking nuts. And then like they go on these crazy stories about like weird shit that just like happened to them. And I'm like, oh my God, is that like what I experienced? Because I think I kind of know what they're talking about. Like that's really nuts. So anyway,
how was it painful for you?
It was really painful, Rob, and it was really hard. It's still hard, because I feel like especially becoming an astrologer and like learning astrology, becoming a student of astrology, to, reading people. I mean, just diving so far into this one like matter of subject. Is it like, there are other parts of my life that are not as enlightened that like I can't throw around that type of terminology and then people know what I'm talking about, so I can't like how I've peppered the words like Saturn into this conversation a couple times. When I say Saturn, I don't mean the planet with the rings. I mean, the ancient Greek god who was unforgiving and made you learn all your lessons, and just like,
well, that's just as see, when we were in middle school and learning about, or middle school, right? That's when we learned about like Greek mythology and stuff. We're thinking these are ancient stories, and like of course they're not real, but like there's an argument.
They made the culture. They rooted the culture for a large civilization of people.
Yeah, but there's an argument. There's an argument to be made that what do you mean by real?
Like me?
No. Like whoever's challenging the claim that the god of war is not real. The god of war. I have a client who the god of war inhabits him. That's why they're in therapy. The couple's in therapy, right? Like it's the god of war is real.
But okay, so wait, Robin, we got to talk about this real quick. That all of culture and society is built on the myths and legends of archetypes. Every single one. Single one. There's a father sky, mother earth, god of the underworld, blah, 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 saints, spirits, rain god, this god, that god, whatever, Buddha, whoever, all the Indian gods. Every culture has the same cross-section of understanding of the deeds and like acts of love of spirituality.
So it's probably real.
Everybody. So it's real, but in an allegorical Piscean way that Pisces right here. So is, again, like when we talk and we use words, like we're communicating information, but when there's emotion or when there's understanding or something very, charged in those words or in the expression, it becomes impactful. And then, you associate that with truth and love, essentially. So if you're talking about Zeus, the king of of the Olympus, and he's throwing the thunder and he's fucking everybody up, like that, to people, the common people, associates just great strength and like a very strong father figure, or an archetype having to do with a very masculine protector. Bro, that's why folklore is so important and so amazing that we preserve it, because we understand how our entire cultures rose from any type of meaningful interpretation between heaven and earth. So when we talk about things like this, and we talk about like the separation between like our ego and our conscience or our higher self or our earth self or whatever, they're always fucking linked all the time. Like that's the thing, is that energy just powers and makes things move and experience about. And it's really being in touch. The more and more we become in touch with our spiritual selves, you got to be careful because you can lose control of the human self. And again, it's keeping in balance both of those things. So, on one side, like I can like lie here, have a glass of wine and meditate for 4 hours and go into like 8 different past lives and talk to husbands about how they pissed me off doing some what and whatever. And that's still a similar argument I have with the boyfriend in this lifetime, because that's a karmic relationship that I have with that person to influence me in that way. So what I'm trying to say is that like, it's all onboarding all of that truth has been very emotionally taxing on me personally. I am a Pisces. We are very sensitive, but we also need to process and understand every magnetic cell of that vibration so that we can create language and understanding around it to translate from heaven to earth, essentially. So just being able to come on your show and talk about, through my essential self, and not as a professional, not as a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a community member of the Jewish community, whatever, like anything, like this is just my spirit talking to you right now. And I wish, like, as it's weird because when people talk like this all the time, they become like Jesus. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, we got to follow this guy. He's the prophet. And then everyone names a prophet. And oh my God, like, shout out to all my Christian friends. Like,
it's why you're talking about the having to balance it.
Well, right. Because that extreme of it, they murdered Jesus. The Jews murdered Jesus. Oh my God. Like, we talk about this stuff in today's culture, the same shit that happened back then, and it's like, so I don't know, that went way off track. And for what it's worth, my Jesus and Mary, the mother of Jesus, experiences have been also just very shocking for me, because again, like this had nothing to do with anything I was ever taught. So I was like, what is this like psycho, like what trip is this? And I actually have not taken any hallucinogenic drugs in my life. I am a cannabis user, but like, I just haven't gone to that level yet. And I've gotten a lot of goods, like, I mean, spiritually understanding, like, Margaux, you're still Jewish. Don't worry. In this body, you are from Jewish culture, and that is your heritage. Like, just be with it, whatever. But spiritually, you are this wonderful person who's coming through, and that is not at all connected to my identity as a Jewish person. Yeah. So that again ties back to what you're saying about being separate from the body and the soul. And like, there has to be a harmonic relationship with them so that you get your human experience and you have all your karmic shit that you need to do while you're here. And 2, it gives you an understanding and to actually reduce like the fear of these opportunities, encounters, and encourage you to make choices that will develop you in the way that you're supposed to in this lifetime. So understanding all that, it's really like taken a lot of pressure off me. Like I've definitely had some like really, really like severe and like potent experiences in my adult life. And, knowing that they were orchestrated perfectly by me in my life between lives, that I plan to have all these transformative experiences with, like many people, like that is your spouse, for example, like you have a soul contract to learn and grow together. So you marry, right? Other people you bring into your life to change your course. So that person who started loving me when I was 13 completely took me out of my New York life. And I, in order for me to heal from the tragedy of that fallout, I had to understand this was a very specific relationship that I set up to experience that trauma in my life from this person. It doesn't make them a bad person. I just chose this person because they're the kind of person that could do that to me. So again, understanding the different, like, guys, if you just want to like fast forward through this, just watch the movie Soul by Disney. It's all there. All of that shit.
Wait. Say that again. Again.
Okay. For everyone who just wants to fast forward through the depth of my conversation, you can watch the Pixar movie Soul, the Disney Pixar movie. This is not a paid endorsement. I'm really telling you that as a person who reads extensively about the formation of the essence of soul, how they incarnate into bodies, the soul groups that we work within, our missions in life, our different dignities that we carry with us, certain karmic lessons that we've dragged with us. I read about this topic extensively. And based on that research, it is still Disney. Like there are still, comedies and funny people and very Earth-like happenings. But all the stuff that they do in the Great Beyond, I'm like, yo, they talk about that in Journey of Souls. That's awesome. Like it's almost like, Pixar and Disney. And, I could go back and cite several illustrative movies that don't quite, again, it's like church. Like you guys did a really good trying. Like you almost, it's an incomplete picture of what heaven really is. But like Disney is like the media entertainment version of doing that spiritual work, and they don't realize it. Maybe they do. They're really good at making money and making very severe business decisions, but they do tell great stories. They do.
There's no doubt that Disney makes good business decisions. I've not seen the movie Soul. I will watch it now sooner than I would have after this endorsement. But I heard someone was talking about Soul. They're like, "Oh, don't watch that with your kids. Like it's heavy. Like it's not like it's not like Toy Story. It's heavy." Now maybe when they said that, maybe they were saying like younger children. But I haven't seen it, so I wouldn't know. But I'm looking forward to it. But yeah,
no, it's good because again, like I think there's a lot of people out there that kind of when you go through something hard, you start to look for meaning in something just out of necessary of survival, So like people who experience trauma, like find Jesus, for example. It's a very common one that people report. So, but what people are really doing is searching to understand a huge source of pain, or that needs to be healed. The point is to come to Earth so that you have the opportunity to heal these experiences on the physical plane with other people in a, mostly erased version of your higher knowing of you as the fragment of this oneness, because you are so privileged to have a fucking body. Like you are so privileged to be here. And, there's a lot of fragments, and that's what's so neat about Soul is that they like show you like some of them go to this place and they need like a long time to get rehabilitated. It's really dark here. And there's, and that would equate to what many monotheistic religions called hell. For example. Yeah. Yep. You're not actually going to be tortured by Satan. Like you're just needing to work through a traumatic life experience, like a suicide, a, tragic death, like, something very, very traumatic.
Yes.
That shit needs to get healed. And it's in Soul. It's in the movie. Like all of that is shown. And you're just, sorry, Robin, I just spoiled the whole movie, but basically
that's all good.
I'm grateful to Disney, whether they are conscious of it or not, they're doing the visualization of things that people need a happy story to tell them, because they're not getting into church. There's no, as much as the Renaissance paintings of the Italian masters, as much as I love Christian, religious paintings of the Renaissance and beyond, people need to see pictures to understand. They need a visualization of a concept to really understand the experience. So that's why art took off. That's why we always need creators. That's why we need storytellers. So for Disney to consistently be making these movies that do kind of paint a picture for a less aware audience, for an audience that doesn't have the spiritual literacy that someone who is an awakened person does. So Disney, I'm coming to the park on June 19th. I'm excited.
June 19th, the day before my wife and I's wedding anniversary.
No. Really?
Yeah, June 20th. We got married on the
summer solstice.
On purpance, the longest day of the year. Yeah, so we could enjoy it, right? Because it's a great day to get married.
You guys, oh my God, that's like something I would do. So way to go, you guys! Freaking awesome.
But Disney, back to Disney. Disney, Disney took Pinocchio is a very old story. Mm-hmm. Disney took old stories, The Little Mermaid, Cinderella. These are very, very old stories. And so Disney basically understood what, George Lucas understood, what J.K. Rowling understands. There's a reason why stories are big box office hits. And it's because they contain truisms of the human experience. They contain archetypes, right? They contain something that's so deeply real that it's true regardless of what time the story is being told.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So I don't know. That's like, that's another episode we could do, is my views on the arts and how undervalued they are and how people need culture in their life to actually keep them sane. But again, stay tuned for next week's episode. Like, so anyway, yeah, just to like kind of end that thought, I guess, that like, I don't know, learning about the infinite soul and knowing that like there's just these meaningful, to have visualizations, it's like the earth, we wouldn't have been ready in the early days of film for that type of awakening. You know, like let's say the first motion picture came out in the late 1800s. The world was not ready for Buddha and shit, like, or the Western world wasn't ready for the Enlightenment. They were Christians living on their white people land, doing whatever the fuck they were doing, like, fine. But I don't know, it's just like so wild because I'm like, it took like, this is the point in time when we are truly spiritually awakening collectively, you know, and these communication devices, mechanisms of storytelling, the development of art as a mastery itself. This all takes time and generations and teaching. And these are all like the human experiences that we come to experience, you know, and like in a past life, like maybe I was like learning under a great painting master. And in this life, I'm, you know, a makeup artist for a top makeup brand, a global makeup brand. Maybe it's the same fucking shit, but just in a different lifetime. You know what I'm saying?
And so I have to ask you, because remember I made the reference, like I would have thought you were talking gobbledygook before my awakening, but post awakening, I'm like, oh, I know how to, I have a place where I can put this and it makes sense. I get it. Like, I do get it. So when someone talks about past lives, you know, I think about, well, what was here? Again, what's the I that's really thinking? There's no one thinking, right? But there's just thoughts appearing. But before I was here, there's, I guess, is past lives. Is past lives an understanding? Here's the best way I can understand it, or put it is, I like the metaphor of the ocean. The water evaporates into clouds and then rains back into the ocean, evaporates into clouds and then rains back into the ocean. And the ocean is the large, like everything, the potential for life to exist. And the evaporation forms the cloud, and the cloud is the individual. The cloud lives about 85 years, give or take, depending on if you smoke and all that stuff, right? And then you rain down, and then you return back into you're no longer an ego, you're no longer an individual, you return. Of course, you never really left. I mean, because it's all still, there's no separateness anyway, but like there's the polarity. You're not just one side of the battery. When you're a human, you're both sides of the battery, right? Yeah. So I'm mixing metaphors here, but
I'm following. Yeah.
My understanding. So I can wrap my head around, I can grok one human life. That's the one I'm in right now. Mm-hmm. I have no idea that whatever coalescence of energy that I am right now existed in a past life. But what I can say is, why could anyone be so certain to rule that out when we're talking about such quote unquote crazy constructs of like, well, you don't actually exist, and like there is no path. There was never, when you awoke, when you realized that you weren't real, all you did was realize that you were never real. You weren't real when you were a kindergartner, like that wasn't, there's no people talk about a path and I'm on the right path, and there's no path. That's all an illusion.
Okay. But you set it up for me to blow your mind. So let's do this. Okay.
Yeah.
So like you mentioned kindergarten. So there are a lot of souls on earth right now who are in kindergarten in terms of just experience. So, and also let's remember that time is a physical construct. This does not exist in the spiritual world. So you could be concurrently collecting the observation data of several lifetimes at once, blah, 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 blah. So don't even fucking worry about that, because that's crazy quantum physics, which we'll do on another episode. But when you understand that we all work together to help each other grow, and by all, I mean every fragment of the oneness, okay? Mm-hmm. So some of those fragments have been here a bunch of times, actually a lot, like a ton. And some of them have been here like half as much, or like a third as much. So there's going to be a noticeable difference between someone who is like very adept and able to, live life easily and can acquire resources and do what they need to do to have a comfortable life. And then there are other, souls, again, in like kindergarten, who are like learning very simple lessons on Earth, you know, and living in places that are not as charged and are a lot more peaceful and perhaps don't have as many terrors, you know, about them perhaps. Mm-hmm. So, you know, when Robin, like, let's say you have a energetic plan to go from kindergarten through 12th grade, and that's all the lifetimes you're going to do on Earth, and that's it, and you're just going to be with the oneness and the divine intelligence forever, blah, blah, blah. Because again, we're not talking about a body. We're talking about the spiritual energy that exists about your body, okay? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in that spectrum of all the humans who are here right now, some of them, and just because you're a young soul too, doesn't mean that you can't acquire a lot of power or a lot of control or a lot of material, but you probably just wouldn't make very mature decisions about those things because you're of a younger level of development. Whereas someone who's in 12th grade is like a religious shaman in like India or something or wherever. So you also have very old soul people, and they're not completely connected to the, you know, competitive ego world.
Is the difference between a young soul and an old soul? A young soul has taken human form 10 times and an old soul has taken human form 100 times. Is that the difference?
Well, I would say that those numbers are not accurate and also not scaled well, but I'm just being technical because anyone hears this,
they're arbitrary. They're arbitrary. So, okay. So sorry, they're arbitrary. I'd say 10 and 10 million, say.
Well, whatever number it is, you know, let's say from one that's smaller to one that's considerably larger.
Sure.
So yeah, you know, and also within all of the experiences and lifetimes that a person will have in order to complete their curriculum, let's say, of soul development, you know, the younger ones are, well, we all incarnate with each other in those consecutive or multidimensional incarnations because we help each other. So when I come to this earth, I want to recognize the soul that I'm supposed to have business with because we made that plan. You're going to meet me in New York in 2007, and I'm going to see you in the window working at this store, and I'm going to come in and ask you to be my girlfriend. Like, that is a very specific soul contract, okay? And like, we make those, I have to recognize that that's the person who's supposed to deliver the soul contract to me, and that's when your emotions pop in. That's how emotions work in the human body. These are the triggers to let you know you are to take an opportunity or to have an experience, basically.
Well, I will not disagree with you that emotions carry messages. And you ignore them at your peril.
Yeah. So, or for many number of reasons. But anyway, but it's important to make that point when talking about soul development because, you know, the ones that have less experience are probably going to stumble upon mistakes that seem like second nature or easy to someone who's practiced that over many more lifetimes. But the whole idea is, like I said this earlier in the conversation, that like in the human ego, you're not supposed to know the cheat, you know, answers to the test. You know, you're supposed to go having taken the experience and, you know, the study courses that you've been doing for the number of lifetimes that you've been incarnating. You take all of those lessons with you to accomplish a new set of tasks in this life. So that's bringing you to today, Robin, why you're born, to the parents that you were born with, the siblings, why do you have the partner, the children that are born to you, like, and for everyone, the audio, Robin is fiercely nodding to everything I'm saying. So, but again, just to kind of to pay that respect is that like, all of our interactions are so meaningful. And like, I know this because of my blasted open spiritual awakening, but I wish this is something that I could like tell other people easily and it like just be so understood that like how loved and like how A-okay and on track things are. And like, even for people, I'm not a professional counselor, so I don't want to ever, I just want to endorse here, please see a licensed therapist, you know, for any reason that you need to talk to a professional. They are wonderful. There are so many out there. I know one, I'm actually talking to him right now, but, and for the record, he is not my therapist, nor am I in any type of therapy right now. So anyway, that was a nice little prompt right there.
Nice
right?
prompt. Yeah.
Like
good disclaimer.
Yeah. Good. I mean, that's my payment. It's my fee here. So no, I'm kidding, guys. This is also not a paid endorsement. This is me just stating my opinions and that of the Robin Smith Show. So, okay. So anyway, right, with soul development, like, you know, you kind of not only having to recognize the people or the other fragments that you made soul contracts with. And again, that can vary from a very harmonious, loving relationship. It could be a teacher, or mentor-student relationship. It could be a reverse relationship. So maybe someone who enslaved you in the past, like you become their bully or something like that, very, very linear correlations between past life issues or things that need to be experienced by the soul in order to grow from the knowledge and collection of that time. So anyway, so I guess I said I would kind of end on this thought, but I guess I really enjoy expressing my thoughts about this because I really do. I wish I could say in a simpler way that the people that we encounter every single day, the ones that come into our lives, like you have to have the experience, even if it's heartbreak. Like no one has chosen a life that's 100% without some type of hard thing in their life. Everybody has a hard thing. People have many joys and people have hardships too. And they manifest in very different ways. And, for some people, this is tough territory. And this is why I was giving the disclaimer before about seeing a therapist. Like, if you're experiencing domestic abuse, violence of any type, no, it is not a soul contract that this person is meant to beat you to death. You go call the authorities and you need to get out of that situation. Maybe the lesson really is to experience grief and over heartbreak, or to speak out for other experiencers of domestic abuse. And again, these horrible things happen to people, but they become such band-aids, or I shouldn't say band-aids. They heal the world truly, from the sacrifice of that horrible time. So I don't know. I think, for me personally, so I was talking about on my Instagram, my Gemini North Node destiny of caring for information and sharing it in ways that are very loving to people and really, help them and are not, they're just comforting and nurturing and loving, basically, the information that I pass, essentially. And that goes in business, it goes in friend conversations, it talks like this. I genuinely am that person. So shoot, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm generally not that kind of person, and I have to orient to be that kind of person. Because when you were talking, my mind associated to, it's really hard for someone who backs up over their 2-year-old and kills them to find meaning in that event, and to say, "Oh, this is just God's will, and I need to learn a lesson here." That's hard.
Yeah. So and again, like I said, grief, trauma is that situation. There's a lot of electrical stuff about your body that actually needs help. So that first and foremost, your safety is the most important thing. But so when I talk about this, I'm really mainly drawing my source from these cases that these PhD researchers would have a client who went to a past life where their child died very young, and then in this life, and they didn't learn the lesson of they felt it, but they didn't they still were very they didn't embrace the lesson to its fullest. So then in this lifetime, they had a miscarriage or something, and then that was something that they grieved adequately, and then by experience, they learned this is loss, and that is truly feeling for loss. So these are the types of cases that these doctors have in their 35 plus year research of talking to people who have these past life memories or who are able to get there through hypnosis. So when I speak about not just, the joy and the happy moments, but the things that we endure that really hurt as human beings, that's why we have to have a balance. There are extreme cases, right? There are really, truly grotesque people who do things with guns, and we're not going down there. But and that, no, that's not supposed to pay any karma or heal anybody. That's a terrible, dark thing that fucking happened. And again, knowing and having the balance between not being you still have to deal with the grief of that as a society, because you're just that's where your human experience is. But then there's a lot of people who just turn a blind eye because they can't deal with the grief of that. There are a lot of people who just ignore the news when it gets too hard. They just don't listen to what's going on out there. So they're bypassing the experience to heal these things. And that it's hard because as a spiritually awakened person, like at first I got very frustrated. I'm like, why don't people just know, do the right thing, and like don't put kids in internment camps? Like, what the actual? So, going through all of that trauma in the United States for the last couple of years, like some people who would never have been confronted with truly horribleness, some of them were able to say like, no, this isn't right. And I'm not, that's not right. And I'm leaving this party, or I'm leaving this church, or I'm leaving this abusive partner, or whatever. And I just think that again, like it has to be a balance, like no one, I think we genuinely all want each other like happy. Like people know like happy generally is better than like, forlorn or just depressed or whatever. So we like look for happiness because that just feels better in the human body. Right. But I don't know. I think that's kind of how like gratitude plugs into things too, because when we're stressed out, we don't like tend to realize like, hey, listen, I'm just a person and this is just a thing that I have to go through and deal with. And it sucks. And that's going to actually create more of me, like that's not changing who I am. It's just expanding who I am. And I wish people like really knew that, and really felt that. And again, I never would have noticed any of these things unless I got struck by lightning and had a spiritual awakening, which I did. And now I'm nuts. So like, well, nuts to...
You're only nuts if you're out of balance. Right?
Yeah.
You're only nuts if you say, well, yeah, I backed over my 2-year-old daughter yesterday, but I'm alive today and praise God. Like
No.
I'm grateful to be alive today. Well, that's right. Like that, but again, the nervous system was not, we could call it design, but that opens up a whole intelligent designer thing. The nervous system is what it is. It got to what it got to, and it's not wired to to accidentally kill your offspring and not feel an intense, complex pattern of negative, unpleasant sensation that lasts an inordinate amount of time. It just is that way. And so, but a spiritual framing would completely say, actually, all of the struggle and longing that your daughter was still alive and that didn't happen, all of that is resisting God. It's resisting home, this present, this apparent present moment that appears to be limited but is actually not. And again, that's why, like, as humans with ape nervous system, I mean, like, it's not just one or the other. The paradox is being able to hold both of these things. You can't console someone and say, well, there's everything happens for a reason. It's just like, you're not consolable. So again, if something so tragic were to happen, right? Not that it were, like it has happened and it probably will happen again. It exists in a, what am I trying to say? It's both happening to no one and it is happening to someone. And it's weird when you say it's nuts or crazy. It's like, it's weird to exist in a social world with reputations to only claim one of them.
Yeah.
And even to claim one of them is dangerous. It's like, absolutely. Whoa, what are you talking about, you heartless asshole?
Totally.
Like, yeah.
So, well, right. And, to your point, like, I mean, we just, the stuff that sucks, like, it's part of being human, like, and no one, I just want everyone to respect each other. And actually the point of having horrible experiences, in my experience, is also to grow from them and and I would say, for me, who's a very independent person, extremely independent person, always paid my own way through everything. It's not that I push people away, but I just don't really recognize nurturing very well. Like I feel kind of not nurtured in the way that I want to be nurtured, but like, I'm just like running off to the next thing that I forget about the part of me. Like, it's just an underdeveloped part of me is the like being nurtured thing. So, and that's only since adulthood. Like that's only in my adulthood, because I just always kept chasing new fun things to try. So I would think that that's, again, something to kind of further into this conversation about, okay, well, what are we doing and what types of experiences are we having on Earth? Like, I don't know, like, did I set up, childlessness for myself? Like, is that a grief that I set up? Like, why would I do that? Like, expect that my life would just be this like Jewish picket fence, fine, modern Mrs. Maisel life, and then it not actually being that. So like, just the spin from one, like you were making the motion, like where it was just rotating between two fixed points, or swinging between two fixed points, and like, why would I have such a high hope for something and then it be like worse than the worst outcome, like why would I set up extremes like that for me? And sometimes I wonder, like, well, did I do it so I could have that lesson without tragic, like a physical tragedy, like maybe I set up an emotional tragedy for myself. I don't know. Like there are other ways to experience pain.
That's the peculiar thing about what you're talking about. When you were talking about past lives and you were using the analogy of like, well, if you lost your child in a past life and you didn't learn the lesson or you didn't work through it properly, which again, it's a very like, psychodynamic term to like work through something, right?
Yeah.
And now in this life, maybe you have a miscarriage that you have to work through. So there's a pattern, or there's a theme of like, you lost something dear to you, and this time you have an opportunity to get it right. That's funny because that's when it comes to trauma, there is a compulsion to repeat. So people can experience something. I say this all the time with people who come from families where they were abused, or their parents got divorced, and they didn't set like they didn't have like necessarily like the model relationship template of how to like communicate with your partner and express appreciation and all that stuff, right? That when people experience something traumatic, oftentimes you'll find that unconsciously they're going to put themselves in situations to give themselves another opportunity. So they're gonna have an abusive mom, and then they're gonna marry a wife who is their abusive mom, right? Or husband. It doesn't have to be the same gender, but the point is like they have this like object in their that is imprinted on them, and then they seek out, or quote unquote they're drawn to, or find or discover a partner that represents these same traits. And their unconscious has provided them the opportunity to like, hey baby, it's time to master this dilemma that you couldn't master because you were little back then and you didn't have a lot of control, but you're big now and you have some power. But like, it's again and again and again and again. We just see this same story over and over again in different iterations, but the same constant, the same pattern, which is your unconscious puts you in a place to get it right this time. And I'm talking about it from a trauma framework, but it's interesting when you were talking about it in this, what would be the framework when you talk about past lives? And is there a specific terminology?
The development of the soul development. Yeah.
Soul development.
Yeah. Soul development.
Yeah. Right. So, because again, if you were to ask me, Robin, when you talked about your spiritual awakening, like you talked about value hierarchy and your conscience is higher self and the individual is an illusion. And so it never actually got born and didn't really die. It was always just water going from cloud to ocean. like where does the unconscious fit into this whole paradigm?
Yeah.
And I'm still working that out. I don't really know.
I'm trying to answer on this podcast. I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. That's what this is. Okay. So Robin, that's why I love to have these types of conversations. And I have to say, I've never spoken this spiritually in recorded media. These are usually just things I like, say to my girlfriends on the phone for 2 hours at a time. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about, but we love you. Or family members, my mom, like she supports me and loves me, but she like doesn't get it. And I'm like, that's fine. Whatever. Anyway. So like, I don't know. It's just so important that like, for me being aware that this is like, okay, like I'm actually more advanced than I thought, like I felt in my ego life, oh my God, I'm so behind. I didn't get married. I didn't buy a house. I don't have kids. I'm so behind. But then when I realized like, oh shit, I'm just like a 37-year-old, like I'm in a 37-year-old's body right now, but I'm playing with the advantage of more lifetimes that I've collected, where I'm sure I've had lots of children. I'm probably, these past life children are probably in my life today in some role, no doubt. And I can write an essay about that, not for the podcast, for an essay that I need to write. But point being, like, when you realize that you have all of that, you might be the one actually in this time, like helping others, like, and you become Mother Teresa, let's say, you're a very old soul that's there to lead and to teach other people and to expand them spiritually or whatever. So, I don't know, like, again, but I don't want to go too far because, again, don't really like the prophet Jesus follower thing. So I'm really like apprehensive about actually entering the wellness industry at all. And that's another thing I will talk about on a different podcast.
Did you say you were hesitant to enter the wellness industry?
Yes. So, there's a lot of capitalism in everything in America. So, like, for me, being a healer is like a not-for-profit business, basically. Like, please help fund my knowledge and study so that I can live and study so that I can then transmit this to you. It's kind of like a tithing that you pay to learned people or whatever. And that's civilization's old. But, it's just like so I had to realize, like, well, you can't realize you're an older soul until you're at least a good amount of life experience into your life, because naturally a 3-year-old isn't going to have the same capacity for maturity as a 37-year-old or a 60-year-old or a 90-year-old and, whatever. So I think that most people don't really have, unless they're born like a fairy, basically, like literally a magical creature, and they are that way. And you know what? You see a lot of artists that are these like eccentric people. These are people who just are the soul creativity that they are. But for most people, again, because we're talking about a wide range of soul development, but most people who are teetering on the, graduating from like going out into young life, basically, or like, let's say my independent New York years, let's say that I thought that that's like, some people, that's the end of their soul development and they just have a very like simple, like carefree life and that's it. And some people experience very difficult things from early childhood, so they were forced to grow up very quickly. So even though you're 16, you feel like you're 45 or 65.
And you don't even feel like you're 45 or 65, but your cortisol levels have been so elevated that you actually have been, if you could do somehow a living autopsy, you could look at your skin cells and say, actually, you do look older than your chronological age because you've endured so much stress, and stress ages you.
Absolutely. And isn't that so crazy that, like, and so that's the kind of cross, X over, like, I don't know, it's like a weird other pattern in like human development, because we not only have the mode of what physical age we are based on the gravity and atmosphere and environment of the earth plane, or the physical world as human beings, but we also have the level of maturity of our soul. So that doesn't always, like, there's a magic point in people's life when the physical age they are is at the, like, if you can't see, but I'm like showing a graph, like one line is going up in age, the other line is coming down in maturity. So like for everybody, where is that point that's like, you're 27 years old and you're the maturity level 27 or something like that, or when are you like, and same, like you have like these, like, I like see elementary school kids who are like child prodigies. And I'm like, you're obviously an old soul, but it's weird because you're in a kid's body. That's so freaky, right? So like using that example, like for me now as a spiritually aware person, I'm not only like learning a person's name and what their face looks like and having a very flat conversation with them. I'm like literally like scanning them, in ways I would never take on information.
Sure. Yeah. There's that before your awakening, your radar systems could pick up light, they could pick up sound, they could pick up certain frequencies.
Yeah.
Right. And then post spiritual awakening, you have the same gear, but you've got a software update that can pick up new.
There's like 4 more packs. There's 4 more expansion packs. Like, oh my God.
Right.
It's all a video game anyway. You'll hear many people say that. But like, I got like all the premium features. Like I got the nice stuff. I got the really like cool sword with all the jewels on it. My avatar is the bomb. Like, I'm not fucking around. Like, this is how it is. Yeah. So, I guess once you become more spiritually aware and then you start to meet people, and again, I'm a Pisces, I'm a water sign, so I'm naturally going to be very, I'm an empath by nature. I just feel other people around me, and it's quite exhausting. I wish people would actually turn it down. It's exhausting me.
I'm married to an empath.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'm not an empath, but I can grok, or I sympathize for the real world consequences of having that sensitivity, say.
it's a burden, you know. I mean, it's hard. It's not a burden. I shouldn't say that because
it can be both though. It can be both.
It's right. It's just a tool. It's a tool. It's the set of, you know, it's the, like I said, it's the avatar you picked, right? I'm going to have this superpower this time around. I'm going to have that superpower.
And when you say the avatar you picked, what you mean by avatar is the flesh body, and what you mean by you is what?
Is the soul at the controller sitting on the couch, totally stoned, just like playing the game, sending all the characters in. All right, now we're on this bus. Now we're on that bus.
Okay.
All right, I had to like visit that castle to like get that one material to build that tool with in another castle.
So that's in the video game analogy to just help me understand it.
Yeah.
Is it the flesh body is the cloud, and the you that chose that avatar? The avatar is the cloud, and the you is the ocean.
So yeah.
Or I guess it's well. Hold on. Maybe the you is the water molecule particulate, the water molecules that's becoming from the larger global awareness that is the ocean into the cloud. It's that.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's my limited understanding of trying to make sense of these things. Yeah.
No, Robin, just having this conversation is a big deal. Yeah.
I'm a young soul. Go easy on this young soul.
Okay. No, you're not a young soul, because again, if you were a very young soul, you wouldn't be interested in awakening at all, because you just wouldn't notice it. That's not your purpose on this life. You're just here to have the body, not the soul.
Let's also not lose in the mix, actually. Again, I mean, my training is, you know, I psych undergrad and I'm a marriage and family therapist. Like, have you taken personality tests?
Who, me?
Yes,
all of them. And in corporate America, they make you take a different one for every organization.
Right. That's right. So you're deeply familiar with that. So you took Big Five then, right?
No, I haven't taken Big Five.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. It's called, well, in Prepare and Rich, which is a premarital package, it's like, it's called Scope. They clean up the actual name, because they're like, people are going to hear neuroticism and they're going to feel judged. And it's like, it's neuroticism. Like it's what do they call it? They call it not people pleasing. I forget what they call it. Anyway, the Big Five is the 5-factor model. It's the acronym is OCEAN. So it's trait openness, trait conscientiousness, agreeableness, extroversion, and neuroticism. So Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENTP. What are you, Myers-Briggs? What are you?
Like all the E's, basically.
All these. Myers-Briggs is basically the Big Five.
I know. I just. Okay, wait. Let me pause. I have to pause you. The reason that I speak this way so vaguely about psychologically based personality tests is because I'm such an aware person. I see the writing on the wall, every question, and I'm a market researcher. I have performed market research. I write questions. I literally am an author of these documents for some of the most powerful bodies in the world. And I just read the test and I'm like, this is bullshit. You can see the code of for me, I can literally see the code of how it's programmed to classify you as a certain type. I'm like a robot. I'm so weird. I'm not even a human. I can actually see it. So I become very overwhelmed by that. And I'm like, I'm not going to take this test because I know who the fuck I am. And if I need to have some identity to you, the body of function, fine. But it's hard for me to come down to that level because I'm thinking about this on a spiritual level. I'm like, I know what kind of personality you are. I know you have a Mars ruler. I know these other things about you.
Well, I'll tell you, whether you've taken Big Five or not, you're above the 80th percentile in trait openness. I will tell you that. Okay. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because so am I. And so when you say spiritually evolved or spiritually awakened or spiritually aware, you know, and you're talking to me and I was joking, I'm a young soul, go easy on me, right? We're both high in trait openness, which especially openness to experience, which means we're more likely or prone to say yes to an opportunity, or say yes to an experience. And so if you, or seek knowledge, seek understanding. So it's the people who reach
Gemini.
well, that too, I guess. I don't know enough about Gemini to get how that fits into this, but like the person who's seeking to understand, the person who's like, I want to know what enlightenment is, like they're probably more likely to like direct method experience it than someone who's like, I just count beans and I work for the government. You know what I mean? Like,
you know what though, Robin, listen, for the people that are meant to have spiritual awakening in this lifetime, it happens in different ways. For me, it was a very explosive event. Other people are church members and they attend their whole life and they're very happy and in harmony with the spirituality around them in that congregation. So I do want to make very clear that people experience spirituality in all different kinds of ways. And for some people, the art of the shock is they are supposed to have a like thing that's like, whoa. And all of a sudden, like I had a near-death experience. No, I'm not talking about my own experience, but I'm saying that, you know, people walk away from ridiculous car wrecks and are like, oh my God, all of a sudden I just needed to figure out who I was and why this all matters. And like that's a spiritual awakening, or I'm air quotes, everybody who's listening. Spiritually, I call them spiritually transformative experiences. I did not coin this term. Many elders in the astrological and spiritual communities use this. Because what you're meant to do as a human is have something that's supposed to jar all of your beliefs and just shock them right out of you. Like that, that is a very valid and documented experience. And other people, like, you know, I love my parents and, you know, my dad, when he had to get through some of his grief in his life, losing his dad and other things that, you know, he's experienced, turning to, you know, his Jewish identity and, you know, towards some of the very comfortable and loving words of the Hebrew prayers and readings and everything. And that's awesome. I'm not a religious person, but watching my dad feel solace in environments like that, like that's why we have churches, because people just want sanctuary from the outside world. And they do that through their connection to religiousness and spirituality. So
they want sanctuary, but they also thrive on ritual. You know, when the world is
but that's what I'm saying. My dad he doesn't practice Judaism like regularly. He is not a man of ritual. It is a spiritual, I
bet you he is. Now, I'm not talking about religious ritual necessarily.
Well, I mean, he does like say certain prayers, you know, like once, a couple times a the year or whatever. And again, this is not particularly about my dad. This is just me as an observer of, you know, someone from my own life who is connected to a spiritual community. And finds comfort in the familiarity of a defined religious group, you know, or ethnic group or whatever it is. But, you know, for me, like, I'm so glad I had that in a peaceful way as a child, because, you know, my respect, again, like I said before, for my culture and heritage, like, my spiritual awakening did not come through Judaism, despite all my best efforts. I was not enlightened as a Jewish person, you know? And it's funny because I learn now as an adult who studies cross-cultural religious history, like, you know, how like some of like the rituals or things that have survived like thousands of years, like how like that's brought me into like learning about history and like people developing. Like I just like understand, like for me, my spiritual enlightenment had little to do with just Jewish history as one story of many. I had to know all of them. Okay. Like I had to feel and experience all civilizations and cultures. And how do you do that? By reincarnating, by going life after life. And I'm going to do a life here. I'm going to do a life here. I'm going to do a couple lives in this place because it's kind of fun and cool and I like it. That's soul development.
But that's the thing that boggles my mind, which is again, it's the I'll tell you, there was a context where I was I'm a supervisor also, so I supervise like trainee marriage and family therapists and graduate level I don't work at the University of Maryland anymore. I used to, but graduate level marriage and family therapists. And one of my supervisees back in the day, I think she had a client who was talking about past lives, and so in supervision, it's just me and her talking about the case. And I made some comment that I regretted later. I really, really regretted it. But my comment was something along the lines of, I mean, I don't even remember what it was. I just remember feeling horrified that I said it, which was something like, I don't understand, like what, you know, past lives, you know, this is hogwash, or this is bullshit, or what is this? Like not being open to what does this mean for this person?
Mm-hmm.
Let's treat it as real, because it's actually foolish to be dismissive of it. You have to understand, like, what is actually happening here. So I don't even know why I'm sharing that story, other than to say, to kind of like wag my finger at my past self. But like when you talk about past lives, rather than being prematurely dismissive of this, as maybe some listeners might be, right? It's like I want to advocate for what exactly is going on for someone who's like, I have no idea what past lives are. How does a person make a shift from that's nonsense bullshit, I don't know what that is, to, oh, like, and you talked about hypnosis, that might be one avenue, but like, what's going on there?
Yeah, I thank you for asking me this question. So the short answer is that we pick that as a condition of our incarnation. So if I'm like going to have a shocking, I don't know, I feel like I'm just saying the same thing. So your question goes in a couple different directions. So I'm just trying to reel it all in together. Is it like hold on, I need a minute to like say the right thing. Okay. Like, the point of doing it at all, is meant for us to understand the completeness of all human experience. Okay. So like, people have asked me this before. Oh, no. So how do they get from there to there? So you plan that too. Sometimes it's the loss of a parent. Sometimes it's, I will say, and I'm not a clinician, so I am not saying this as a professional who counsels anyone, but the writings that I read of people who study this is that it's usually out of some aggravating pain, like some people have like a recurring shoulder injury and then they receive hypnotherapy and then they realized, oh, I was in a terrible accident and I had a heart attack in my past life and I died that way. So by going back to that unhealed remembrance that is released from the person, hypnotically or whatever. I don't know the right term because I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm so sorry. But that after experiencing and processing that trauma, that they felt better and they never had a recurrence again of that issue. So that was the very formative, like early years of hypnotherapy and going beyond psychology. And this is what I was going to say too. It's so interesting and cool having this conversation with you, particularly because you do come from the globally accepted trade version of understanding human beings, like
I'm not a hypnotherapist either, but hypnosis is very real.
It is so real. And I think that, people are very fearful of it because they are worried about re-experiencing trauma. But I would say that, again, that most people turn to alternative therapy because their grief is unbearable or their pain is unbearable, whether it's physical pain, whether it's emotional trauma, most happy people don't look for help. They're like, my life's great. Let's just keep partying. Why would I stop the party? This is awesome. But people who are in a lot of pain, they seek therapy. Some people get their enlightenment through their therapist, and it might not be as dimensional as the ninth layer of God, but it could the ninth harmonic of, the universe. But
my favorite harmonic.
Your favorite, yeah. We should start a band, Robin. Come on. So, because these are all just great names. But once you can have, people like, again, using the my Forrest Gump mentality, like he was not a smart man, but he was having a very spiritual experience, on Earth. And we need no one, just because they're an older soul age, does not entitle them to an easier or better experience. It is all by personal design. So if you're not in alignment with who you're supposed to be and the experiences you're supposed to have, that's when your life gets kind of messed up, because you are on the wrong path. So
if you're not in alignment with your
and
I would argue not in alignment with your value structure, your conscience, and again, that's if you're resisting that or you're going against that, or if you're not in alignment with whatever is happening, you are that's what. But when people say, what do you mean by God? That's kind of what I mean by God. God is in part your values, this higher self, this higher awareness, this global awareness. But God is also, if you ask someone what is going on right now, like what is this? No one can tell you what this is.
No, there are people that can tell you. No, definitely. Yeah. but they're not heard by people because it's so beyond. Yeah.
Well, you could have 10 people who think they know what this is, and they'll tell you this. I can tell you most of the day, they think they know, but they're wrong. We know what this is. This is the occipital lobe receiving photons from the sun. And that's where you can see your visual field. And then you can say, no, this is the ninth harmonic. This is all mysterious.
Yeah.
So
you're ready to go up another level? Like, we're not done, pal. Like,
you know what?
Even further.
Hold on. I am definitely ready to go up another level.
Okay.
And the human bladder has its limitations.
Okay.
So let's through the magic of editing, this conversation will pick right back up.
You're on mute.
There we go. You know why? I turned off the audio interface accidentally with the light switch. Something happened in my basement where the lights go off. I think it's haunted. All right, hold on. No. Okay, so take me to the next level. Help me understand. You said you about to blow my mind.
Okay, so this is also in the movie Soul, so that's all good. So we talked about the earth plane, right? So us humans in our skin and our bodies, we're here on the earth plane. Then we talked about heaven, right? So heaven is like where all the angels and God live, and it's like a paradise there, right? Whatever. Also, it's called Zion in many cultures, which is my last name. So if you'd like to be friends with me, I'm open to new opportunities, period. So anyway, above that even are other like dimensional planes of like wisdom, of like learning and knowledge and experience, of like basically infinite love, it's just the knowledge and understanding of all that is. So these planes, and I'm not a scholar of this information. I'm a consumer of this information. So I can't describe them in detail in this conversation. But the short illustrative version is that they're basically like, so you have Earth, you have a second, it's called the astral plane, actually, is like where all the souls, kind of decide to come down. That's like the astral plane. And then you have a plane above that. I think it's called the causal plane. And it's just about, it's not actually soul essence. It's just like a higher vibration that's only the information. So it's no longer like the flare of the soul, but it's just like the hard drive of the flare level.
Let's stick with the hard drive. So is it the Wi-Fi? It's the Wi-Fi signal that your device is picking up?
No, like your Wi-Fi. No, because it's not quite.
Otherwise, you would have just used that metaphor. Right?
Yeah, and I'm trying to like say this the like easiest and most clear.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. To a lay person.
Material, yeah. So anyway, basically you have these planes of higher whatever, and they are non-physical, right? They are metaphysical. So we don't really have any scientific device, to use the scientific method to prove, like you can't like say the ghost of my, dead aunt is in my closet, because like, you see like shows where people try and like, there might be like a energetic presence that is unexplainable, but like, does that make it a ghost that's here to haunt you and boo, like, and then there are like abandoned mental hospitals, and there's like a lot of like wandering darkness energy like around those places. So like what I'm trying to explain is like we as humans, it's not that we're unaware of what these things are. People report them and experience them all the time. There are TV shows about these things, is kind of what I'm saying. So that is like an example of what metaphysical energy is, because it's not physical, it's not a temperature, it's not, you can't see it, you can only just perceive it, basically.
Well, so seeing is one sense of perception. So when you say you can't see it, you can only perceive it, perceiving it, the empiricists would say, perceive it through what?
Yeah.
What's the receiver?
Yeah. Your emotions, how you feel, how it makes you feel.
Right. So at some level, your nervous system, at some level, because it has to translate to your nervous system.
The human body, baby, is so wild. Like every neuron, like the smallest value of nothing is perfectly designed for, like, we think about it on a, in a shallow way, like birth, for example. We're like, hey, mammals give birth, right? That's like a very animal, even humans are mammals. Like, let's just call it for what it is.
Yes.
So, not to degrade the specialness of humanity. That's what the soul is for, is to give us specialness in our mammalian bodies. I feel like a manatee right now, by the way. I really do. Fuck COVID. fuck, staying at home, I can't wait to party.
But wait, birth, yeah, birth. It's like, again, it'd be the same thing of like, no one knows what this is that's happening. Here's a mystery. It's like, explain birth, explain life coming into being. No one can do it.
So, well, that's what I'm saying is that when you're dealing with metaphysical energy, it's like you have moms who report all the time, I knew my child's name, like when I was 7 months pregnant,
sure,
you know, or I knew I was having a boy, you know, or I knew, you know what? I read this one recently. It was a woman who knew she was having a boy. She gave birth to a girl. And then this person came out as trans.
Sure.
So like the woman spiritually knew that she was having a different sex gendered person. So for me as a spiritual being, I'm like, look at all this information. You are being provided by human experience to expand your mind, make room for everybody, and understand, again, all that is about us as not just beings, but as this essence of light.
Right. One problem you're going to run into with skeptics is that they're going to say, well, but, you know, if there's an expectation, like the placebo effect is a real thing. So if you and beliefs are very fucking powerful, right? So like people unconsciously act out their beliefs, even if they're like, I think this, and then they really believe that. Unconsciously, a part of the community of them inside believes something, and then they act it out. So the one problem that you might run into with skeptics is, oh, well, you know, expectation is the explanation. You're going to point to other like behavioral models of explanation or influence. Someone might say, someone who doesn't understand trans, like, you're going to go, well, the mom just, you know, wanted to have a boy. And so like basically talked their daughter into transitioning. You know what I'm saying? Like, so people are going to come up with different explanatory.
They are.
Right.
Listen,
So yeah.
Listen, I work in marketing technology, and every day it's not just my job to figure out what the solution is, but also like unlimited error solutions as well, you know? So like, to me, like, it's weird that I just have this ability in my human emotional life to not at all think about what a skeptic has to think about my opinion or experience about anything. And it took a while to form that, but I feel that now today is the confidence to be like, I don't have to prove anything to you. I am just speaking about my experiences, and if you are getting something out of this,
but
with you.
Yeah. And that's fair. And that's fair enough. Because basically what you're saying is whoever wants to listen to this message can accept it. And whoever doesn't, it's not my responsibility. Exactly. Yeah.
And what I say, right. It's not meant for everybody. It will trigger things in certain people. It will help some people. But like, again, for me, like that's the part of like, kind of, again, your mind, your body essence, like mind, you know, in one or separate kind of thing is like, you know, I do have to exist in the world, the human world. So I don't go around preaching my beliefs. You know, it's like, hey, if someone sees that I'm interested in astrology, for example, and then they start sending me astrology memes, I'm like, thank you for seeing me. This information has brought me a lot of joy. And I appreciate you acknowledging that about my experience, because that makes me feel seen rather than needing to be told, you're the best astrologer in the world, or you debunked all the quizzical myths that I had about this as a spiritual practice. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, I'm not like, I feel privileged because I've not like been involved in a major like internet flame war, you know, ever. So I do want to just acknowledge my privilege there.
Something tells me you'd be too mature to even agree with the premise of getting into a war with someone.
I wouldn't have time for it. You know, I wouldn't even be able to, but it's hard because like, I think about celebrities, like I live in Los Angeles. So like everybody has like a personal boundaries problem.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's like why I think, again, I prefer my deliverance of holy wisdom or whatever. I prefer that to be so natural and conversational, and to show and to deliver it in a way where it's like, hey, here's two people who are talking about some crazy shit, like insane, like far out man kind of dude stuff. But we're doing it in a way where it's like, I'm telling you something crazy. You're trying to understand. We're having a conversation where we're both listening to and respecting each other's beliefs and boundaries. So please take this as a use case to talk to your clients and say, like, you can have a friendship with anybody you want to. It's the energy you bring to that conversation, and that includes boundaries. It really does.
Yeah.
But, you know, not everyone is just like aware as I mean, I have a communications career. Like, I'm aware of these things because like, that's why I'm successful in my careers, because I have those gifts. But like, I don't know. Like, I think about it everywhere I go, because I just like, I do, like being part of communities. I like going to work and making new friends and sharing knowledge and information in that way. And just as I would collaborate on a project that has to do with like a major marketing platform, would I have the same like discovery conversation? It's the same format as this one right here, and it's so Pretty beautiful much. How you can just talk to people about anything, it's great. So anyway, that's, I don't know. Thanks, Robin. Like this is so not a spiritual message. This is just me expressing myself and my life experience and my acceptance and understanding of meaning beyond, the ego, or meaning beyond the one single person. And, I find a lot of love, and I've managed to overcome a lot of things in my life, a lot of really, really tough things in my life, by understanding them in the framework of enlightenment that I'm in now, because it's made me feel more accomplished. Like I achieved this experience rather than I suffered from this experience, whatever. Mm-hmm. And having that mindset, it really does make me feel very proud to be myself, and it really, I also just welcome the people who have supported me and offered me, opportunities to either work or learn something, apprentice. I mean, from makeup to this, like, and oh my God, I just love learning from people. And I love, even so, like, neighborhoods I live in, like, I'm not going to go into like a huge, like, zip code war with people, but like, I generally don't live in white people neighborhoods. Like, let's just say that. Like, I generally, and when I say white, that does not mean white or black. That means like very, very like many people from all different kinds of places with multiracial and inter-community. I lived in New York and California. Like, this is what I do. Okay. So like, I can't be around suburbia. Like, right. Yeah. My own life spat me out of it. I tried. I even bought a house. I even signed a freaking contract.
My own life spat me out of it.
White people live? Nope. You're going to go back to a city and you're going to do your work there. And that's what you're going to do. So, but it's funny though, because we're having this conversation, and like, for all, we knew each other for, a time period in our lives. And then many, many years of development went by for each of us in our separate, kind of vehicles of that. But to come back and have this conversation, like, it is kind of extra powerful, because you're like, oh my God, like, Margaux turned into this human being. Like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm saying that, I mean, I don't mean to tell you how you should feel about talking to me. That's not at all what I'm trying to do. But I find it like, I really like to have, and I really like to have these like mind expanding means of communication. And I've said before, like, I would love to like lecture places. Like, I would love to just like give my remarks on things, my thoughts. Like, I just want to share my thoughts. I don't want to create, academic papers. I don't want to prove anything to anyone through research. Like, I just want to like share my stories, and I want people to feel like, oh, wow, like, life is awesome. Like, cool. I can enjoy this, and I'm able to connect with that and to step into who they are more and more. And I don't know, like, it's hard, because just like there wasn't really a college major for me that like made me feel like, oh, I want to dedicate my life to that. I feel the same way about my adult life. Like, there's no program like for what I do. Like, there's no program for who I am. It's just about like writing it as you go along. And it can be very fearful. I mean, there are some people who need a lot more structure and security than I live on, but like, I don't know, the right people will hear me in some way. And whether that becomes like a thing where I can talk more, or talk, guest like this on people's podcasts, I look forward to being able to share more of myself, and that benefiting other people in some way. That's what I want.
Yeah, no, I totally resonate with that. I hear you. And I, by the way, just for the record, when I invoke the consider what the skeptic thinks, like, I'm not necessarily disaligning or aligning with you. What I'm doing, because I wonder if that question got us off of where you were actually taking me, because I'm still not entirely clear. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was the metaphor. Like, I tried to understand. You're like, let me break it down for you, but then I maybe it was just the topic. The actual content is too hard for me to understand. Like, what help me understand what the
third plane, the plane up?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, okay. Right. Yeah. I thought that's what you were trying to get at. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Basically, these planes of intelligence, basically, they either deal with physical matter, or non-physical matter. And of all of the categories, most of them are non-physical. Physical is the only one that we know about and we experience 100% of. We sometimes experience pieces of the other planes. Like there are people who channel certain energies from other dimensions. And I know it sounds so crazy. I know it sounds crazy.
Not to someone who's done DMT.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Or someone who,
but again, empiricists have tried to. Rick Strassman, I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Yeah.
The spirit molecule. Like we're gonna dose people at high levels on DMT and then like record what their experiences are.
Yeah.
So when you say people are gonna think like interdimensional like beings, like it's just crazy. It's cuckoo. It's like, well, not to someone who's interested in
who studies that. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So again, that's where my knowledge comes from, is like I kind of read the source material, like I read these people's papers because so I'm like one touch from the original, author of these things. I'm not reading it on like in a women's magazine or in a meme or some shit. Like I'm actually like reading the scientific work of live humans. Mm-hmm. So, based on their evidence that they collect, that they observe a spiritual memory or a spiritual, occurrence or whatever, and they collect their findings and they draw correlations and they draw diagrams and they make maps. Like they do these things so that we can have some well, it's hard because like that has to then evolve into the forward motion of evolution. So for example, we didn't have rock music until 1950. People were making music for millions of years with instruments. Uh-huh. So like, Keith Richards, he's been alive as long as the Stone Age, I guess. But like, a guy like that, we forget that we are experiencing evolved versions of many things in our lives. And we should be so grateful to be alive, to like, be like, oh yeah, remember when I worked on art in the Renaissance? Now I'm Banksy or something like that. Like now I'm living that I enjoy as a spirit. And you'll see this in soul. Like everybody has a thing. It's called their spark. It's the thing that makes them go like, oh, I got to do that. And so you got to see it. But no, but so when I talk about the higher planes, the research that I read again is purely observational while people are either in deep trance or in altered states. And there are many psychedelic substance trials happening now, which thank you for everyone in the 60s who endured the emotional abuse then, because we wouldn't have the precedent, perhaps like they struggled with in the early days. And now we have a lot more medical, like support, from not just therapists, but like if you go into some type of heart attack or shock while you're in a crazy state, like we can hook you up and get you back here quickly. Like that early shit was fucked. Like I'm telling you, like early trials were not always great experiences.
Unethical?
Yeah, perhaps. Yes. Yeah. Just not, there was no study of medicine, there was no like oversight board. There was no like, I'm talking about like early medical. So yeah, that's another example of something that, hey, we need a device to pull someone's rotten tooth out, or, remove or put leeches on them or something to get their fever to go down. Like, all that archaic stuff over all the energy that we put into learning more about these things and improving our methods, we become better doctors. We have better technology. We become better therapists because now we're incorporating spiritual information into our earthly, dry air sign practice. So all relevant, and I'm not of your industry and I'm not trying to change any energy about the way it's going, but like when
there's an overlap. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an overlap in what you're talking about and the part of my field of hypnosis. There's an overlap, right? Because this is one overlap, we could say, right?
But not all hypnotists are doctors. So hypnosis is not a board certified practice of medicine. So yes, that's exactly what we're saying. So like, Robin, way to go. People like you who are open to spirituality as a refinement and as an improvement to your practice, as opposed to a textbook, like, okay, fill out the survey, these number of points equal this diagnosis. And there's no actual like relationship or investigation into the patient, larger than just a piece of paper. So again, like, I want to say this to you as an elder millennial as well. Like, we're all here just eating shit from the boomers or whatever, argument anyone wants to have, which I sort of agree with, but I still love my boomer parents and I get it that we all have to be in different places in life. But anyway, so like, so it's important that people like you who practice traditional fields of medicine are bringing the next generation and are maturing the field with the added experiences you're having as spiritual people or having more of a spiritual awareness, period. And it's weird because this very issue through history has come up. So for example, astrology, it's kind of a science, kind of an art, kind of religion. It's all three in one. And it was an academic subject until the 1800s. But, how did that get snapped up? If anyone other than the church could control or have fate or destiny to say to a king, that had to go. So, it's very interesting. And again, I'm not an official historian, but I'm going to call myself an amateur historian and an amateur religious studies, whatever. I am not degreed in any matriculated with these studies. But I learn a lot by I learn a lot through just my own intuitive exploration, and by teaching myself history, by teaching myself psychology, by teaching myself these things, I'm like, wow, now I understand the pattern in history. And here we are again, the rise of nationalism or whatever, or like, here we are again, not just many things, great artistic renaissance periods, like a rebuilding, a reconstruction after destruction. These are cycles that, like, it's funny because we just have enough recorded history now to be like, data analysis, like every couple of cycles this happens or whatever, there's a famine and like, well, anything, it could be anything. So just when I think about soul development, when I think about spirituality, when I think about all of this wrapped up into just like the divine experience of like beauty energy, is like, the point is that you're not supposed to notice. You're supposed to just live your life doing things that bring you fulfillment and meaning and joy.
Why aren't you supposed to notice?
Not that you're not supposed to notice, but if someone told you like, hey, you're going to marry that girl, it wouldn't be natural. You wouldn't fall in love. You would just know a command. And then that would therefore be like, okay, like, you're a Taurus, you're in my 7th house, so therefore we're gonna get married. Ha 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 ha. Like, that's false logic. That's not, that's not love. That's not a connection. You have to build the emotional bridge with someone or something to really incorporate it as a lesson in your life. So that's why no one has all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Not one person has all the answers. Not even Jesus. Jesus does not have all the answers. Everyone has their experience. So for me, that's why I just feel so strongly about us actually working together, because no one's supposed to have all the answers, and we're supposed to learn to coexist, and we're supposed to do this as a large collection of this brotherly fractile, from the source of energy, which is what in religion they call God. So it's very beautiful to me. I know I'm just like talking endlessly, but Robin, like, this is good shit. It's really good shit. And I think that, this is the not therapist talking, but for me in my spiritual practice, understanding the truth of my connection with someone else, whether it's one of partnership or whether it's one of favor or whatever, I would want to, I would be able to make better choices perhaps about my life with those tools, to know like, hey, maybe this person came into your life to be the father of your children, but you weren't supposed to have a long marriage with this person. You needed to, take that experience and move on to another chapter of your life and to build yourself up or to learn self-sufficiency, let's say, and not rely on a spouse or whatever. So again, if you knew what you planned for yourself in this lifetime, it wouldn't be meaningful. You'd just be like, you cheated on the test. You fail. You have to take it again.
I follow. I mean, you're answering my why aren't you supposed to know? That's exactly what you're saying, what you're pointing to. And when you say, like no one has all the answers. Mm-hmm. Again, in my tribe or my brand or my understanding, which again I'm poking fun at because there aren't tribes and there's not separateness. That's the claim, is that there's not separateness. So if we buy into the notion that the ego isn't real, then whatever we're talking about the thing that doesn't, whatever has or doesn't have all the answers, people want to find answers. So the ego wants to know something. It wants to seek. It's like, I got to get my PhD in this, and then I'm going to go do this. And it wasn't, when you hear, hold on, when you hear people say it wasn't supposed to be this way, right? Again, every time something tragic happens, it wasn't supposed to be this way. That's the veil, the illusion being the universe is pulling the curtain back and saying, see, do you see how it works here? All of your expectations, it's not real. And there's not, I
got to cut in. Please let me cut in.
Sure.
Okay. Before we accept anything as truth, we have to take we have to use a method. We have to use some type of methodology to make a hypothesis, test it, find out the results, and therefore create a law based on that repeatable method, right? That's the scientific method. So when we're talking about things like, spiritual experiences, you cannot prove any of those things.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So therefore, the spiritual practices are therefore binarily excluded from medical research or medical improvement, because the architecture of the medical system now has to do with laws, rules, hierarchies, classifications, very scientific information.
And evidence.
And evidence, of course. But so therefore, right now we're in a time where the whole world is changing, okay? Everywhere. The United States, 2020, bro, and the stuff that's being talked about now, wage equality, civil justice, reparations, everything that needs to absolutely be healed in this country is coming to surface now. This is the two hidden areas that I wish that the people listening could see my facial reaction, but are we going here now? Here we go.
That's the screenshot I'll use in the promo, and they will. I'm just kidding.
That's the one. The two areas: higher education and the medical profession. Blasting apart established structures to expand the consciousness of the practice itself. So does that include spiritual research in the established medical classifications for certain disorders or whatever, or diagnoses? Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, are we talking about ketamine trials and MDMA trials and psilocybin trials? Is that what you're talking about? You're talking about the convergence of? I'm sorry.
I was talking about it more from a spiritual perspective, like to bring in like soul development and karma and relationships and hypnosis and exploring spiritual occurrences, near-death experiences, people having, needing people who get abducted by aliens, they cannot get the type of treatment and understanding from the index of diagnoses that we go by in today's world. So yes, there is the clinical drug arm of that, and that is one, probably more popular arm.
Well, I wasn't tracking. I was referring to it, how it's treating like depression and PTSD and stuff, but not you're talking about actual like understanding of spiritual, like basically researching spiritual development, soul development. Like how can that be done? It can't really be done in a traditional sense.
It's right. Because you can't prove it, because you can't go and observe the experiencer having that experience.
Yes. You need to, you're a sample size of one. You have to go be a direct method experiencer, right, and then come back and report back and say, well, okay, if you're the only one who's ever had this, then I don't know if there's a there, but if each N of one continues to go and have direct method experiences and come back, and then there's some sort of consensus pattern, well, then you can't just ignore that. You have to say, exactly, what's going on there?
Yeah, totally. And but that's the struggle. Like that's the polarity, is that like you have this incredibly developed and widely accepted method of collecting information and classifying information. And then you have like new data that there's no program yet to store that kind of information, because it's not in the current architecture. So my larger point is that the institutions that have a hard time with innovation, medical, higher education, government, these very structured environments. And, for me as one person just observing all of this like transformation on earth, I feel exhausted even just talking about it. But, it's hard because like, I see my friends and like they work in different, and especially being from the Washington area, having many, many loved ones who are in, public service and beyond. And like, just how like, I really, and this is going back to what I was saying earlier, is that I really want millennials, I want people my age who have been dragged through the mud of all the recessions and not being able to get to the place that we want to be in life. Like our great comeback, you know, is by laying the floor for all of the future expansion of these very tough places to flourish, you know,
and to grow and to not be ossified, to be able to, not be limited.
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly.
Definitely higher education. I mean, the technology age that we live in now, when financial advisors are like, you should do what is it called? A 527 or something. I can't even remember right now.
Mm-hmm.
The educational plan for your
The
kids.
savings plan, the college savings plan.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, and they're like, yeah, do you want to do that? And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I'm really not as confident that it's like a known thing.
Yeah.
18 years from now or 15 years from now, like
Yeah.
higher education, because of the access to, I mean, I think doesn't Google have its own higher education, like credentialing body? It's like, do you want to work for Google? You don't need to go pay these institutions. We'll train you. And and that's fucking gold. It's good enough, right?
Yeah. So that's been happening for actually a lot of years. And I've been studying this. I've been listening to this also because I have a career experience, which I cannot disclose, but where I'd listen to people in high leadership positions talk about the future of like recruiting, and that, the synopsis of that is that it's not actually going to be like preparing people from beneath, like, but it's going to be training people from above, you know?
Yep.
So like thinking, okay, like I don't want to go to college and whatever, but I had to go there to meet Japanese people. So I guess I got what I needed out of the experience. But, that's not true. I had a great mentor, and thank you. You know who you are, lady. So thank you so much. But anyway, so, like, I just really want, it's really, I want people our age to like sincerely bring what they have to the table based on our generation and our understanding of how the world is not at all boomer time, and it's not Gen X time either. And we're like the first like young people out of the gate to like, and this is all in astrology, by the way, we are the Pluto and Scorpio generation. So it's all about really going deep, exposing all the problems in society. And we've had a very dark experience with it, but all that had to die for things to be reborn. And generations after us, they're already born with consciousness that, because again, they're reincarnating, right? So they're more like, this is your grandma, and now she's coming back as your like niece or something like that, so shit like that. And many Eastern cultures believe this, like it's a common and normal family thing to be like, oh my gosh, like you incarnate close by to your family, and people recognize family members consistently. It's very cool, but also very spooky. So anyway, so just in conclusion, there is like, we
and very foreign to Western listeners.
Yeah,
right?
and
which is most listeners. Yeah,
exactly. So, just in talking about us, this new generation, like we don't need to, like it's not going to go back to the way it was for our parents ever in the world. That is never going to happen. Now we have enough recorded history, like I said before. So we kind of have to like show the younger kids too, like, what's great about elder millennials is like, we're starting 40, like we have positions of leadership. We have spoken at conferences. We have become contributors to our fields in, all intents and purposes. So for us aged people to finally be like the okay boomer thing, like all that happened because like we're finally sick of it. It's like, you know what? I don't really want to hear this anymore. Like I'm successful. My life is working for me. I don't need to be told that I can't be in charge here, and it's not about taking power out of vanity. It's about like, okay, now it's time to move the world forward. Let's just go. You have to like, when your parents die, like you have to deal with all the family pictures, but you gotta like, you can't.
Yes. But we can't be too hasty to just be like, we got what we needed. Now we're leaving you behind. It's like, you can't,
Absolutely. No way. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's what you're suggesting, but like,
not at all.
I mean, because how could you? I mean, there's this conversation has ancestral wisdom woven throughout it. So I mean, the most proximal iteration of that is our living. Sorry, who will become our ancestors, the people who are older than us. So I guess there are people who are like, you need to get out of the way. Like eventually they're gonna. I mean, especially when people talk about say like racism and racists, they're like, well, the racists are gonna die. They're gonna age out of this. They're gonna die. And I'm not. That's a bad example because I'm not saying
one every day. Don't worry. Yeah.
No. But it's a bad example because the point I'm trying to make is actually we shouldn't be too hasty to be like, well, they should just die off and their ideas are wrong. Now with racism, there is, I don't understand any sort of pro-social benefit to that at all. I can't make but something else like, I don't know what your grandma or grandpa are saying to you. Some people might be like, well, they're just old and that was their time and blah. No, Robin, but you can't just discard it.
Robin, okay, listen, that's why we have retirement in our culture. You know what? Like, my dad, God bless this man. Like, the only thing I want for my dad is for him to finish out his career with dignity, take his life savings, retire, relax. Thank you for
his mysterious space.
His mysterious career. Yeah. But that's what I mean. But you know what? I don't just want that for my dad. I want that for everybody. I want everyone to relax at 65, and if you worked really hard, like if your career didn't start till 40, that's fine. You only need to work till 65. Or whatever, when you can no longer work or whatever. So that, some people want to work till they die because they just like it. It just gives them their energy and their vitality. Some people want to retire at 30. Okay, whatever you want to do. But I'm saying, so retirement is, I'm saying that from a financial perspective, but what I mean is from like, we all get to a point in our life and we just don't have the performance, that we did as younger celled people. And, whether that's called the golden years or the glory days or whatever you want to call it, everyone gets a victory lap. Everyone gets their dignity. They really do. So it's, that's when I can take this into the direction of like social programs and why, like what systems of support need to be in place for people to live a natural life. But we're not motivated by that in capitalism. Like that's not the way that our system works. So speaking from my heart, I'm like, I want everyone to have their dignity, but speaking from reality, like, right. It's not about unplugging dad from the wall. It's not about that whatsoever. Anyone who is even in that territory, please seek therapy today. Like, it's not that way. You don't have to live like that. Okay. But instead it's like, how do we create, just like we need to care for kids in preschool so that people can live their lives, we need to care for elderly people as well. And I'm saying this as a person who spends a lot of time with elderly people. And that's another conversation for another day. Like, oh my God. So Robin, dude, we have talked about so much. I feel like we've talked about a lot. And like, I hope what has come across is like weaving the like boundless palette of my weird life experience with all of these gems coming up, people that helped me, places I had to go, financial resources, information, a career skill, a relationship, whatever. Everything shows up when it's meant to encourage you to have a certain type of experience and move forward. And, I want, again, thank you for allowing me to talk like this on your show. I feel so liberated being able to say this stuff. And, again, I just, please, peace and love to everybody on planet Earth, because it's a hard role. It's so hard. And if we could just help each other rather than make it harder for each other, that is my one wish for all the peeps on La Tierra, like literally. So yeah. I didn't mean to like take the conversation out, but like, I feel like that's,
No. Yeah. It's a good time. It's a good place to wrap up. But it's a good place to wrap. I in some cases, I've done listeners a disservice because there's so much other territory to go with you. But we should bring this thing in for landing. Where can listeners find out more about you? Where can they follow you?
Oh my gosh. Well, the best thing to do actually to get in contact with me, if you don't already know me, is through my website, Margaux Astrology. So that's, let me spell my name for you because it's exotic. MARG like Gina, A like Apple, U like umbrella, X like X-ray. So Margaux, MARGAUX. Margaux Astrology, no periods, margauxastrology.com. And I don't talk a lot about my astrology practice, but I have a contact form there. I do run like some weird Instagram accounts, but they're like really confusing and I'm actually quite confused by them. So please don't follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. People can go to that domain. Any other places that they can find you?
Yeah, please, my website would be the best.
Yeah. Awesome.
And yeah.
I'll be sure to put it in the show notes. Thank you, Margaux, for coming on. A real treat. And you've got to come back soon. And
I would love to.
Yeah, and maybe we can schedule a time in the daytime so we can break our record. This could end up being the gold medalist in longest conversation so far, only to be broken. Could be, maybe not. Actually, Molly Scanlon, a mutual friend of ours, might have the gold medal. So you're coming after her gold medal.
I'll have to give you another 3-hour lecture about something else. I honestly, I could talk for all night. I wanted to bring it in because I felt it was a very beautiful place that we brought the understanding to. You know, we kind of went up in dimensions and we went around in mysterious life experiences. And to close it off by saying, like, I tried every road that I was given by my parents. I really tried every conventional way of doing everything, and it did not nurture me. It spit me out and said, go figure it out your own way, Margaux. So to bring that home, and I don't know why I'm ending on this spot, but I know that there's a lot of people out there trying to figure it out. You know, there's a lot of people trying everybody else's way but their own. And if I can encourage you to truly open your own doors, you would be like so tickled and just completely, you would be awashed with love to know what you have going for you, and you can absolutely do whatever you want that grows you in a positive way.
That's a great message. It's a great message, a great place to leave it. Margaux Zion, everyone, thanks for coming on.
Thank you grazie.
So that was Margaux Zion. She's amazing, and I can't wait to have her back. We've got a lot of ground to cover. And you know, she's out of this world. I think she gets that from her dad. I think she gets that on her dad's side. When she comes back, maybe her dad will be retired and she can reveal that after all, it turns out he was researching space aliens, and that's why she couldn't talk about it. No, but I forgot to mention this at the top. This weekend, you know, when the CDC dropped the news, like, hey, if you're vaccinated, you can take your masks off. Have you all been slightly confused or disoriented by this, or are you know, those of you who are vaccinated, just totally taking your masks off and going into grocery stores normally? I don't. There's no judgment here. I'll tell you, I've been still wearing my mask even though I'm vaccinated. You know, we had like an event at the girls' school this weekend, and I was like, you know, I was talking to Kelly. I was like, what do you think? You know, it's like probably just should still wear our masks, right? Like, and of course that was the case. Everyone was wearing their masks. By the way, the spring fair at the school had the cutest large tortoise, and I went over to it was like a reptile exhibit. You know, it was a fair. They had like a dunk tank and party balloons and like the balloon animal stuff. I go over to the reptile lady. She's like, I'm like, how old is that tortoise? Thinking she's gonna be like, it's like 85 years old. She's like, oh yeah, he's 21. He's old enough to drink now. I was like, what? Only 21? I was like, kind of like disappointed for a weird reason. Anyway, yeah, stay safe, guys. Stay safe and do whatever you feel is the responsible thing to do, and we'll figure all this out, right? Right? I'll see you guys next week.
Hey friends, you can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts, and you might find your review featured on a future episode. Got a question? Call the show's hotline at 301-458-0883 and leave a message. It too could be featured on a future episode. You can get in touch with us at robinsmithshow@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
The Robin Smith Show is produced by me, Robin Smith. Executive produced by Robin and Kelly Glenn Smith at Team Robley. Theme song by The Very Small. The show is engineered by one of my alters, Games Nabisco.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for general purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, psychotherapy, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. Note, no therapist-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information is at the listener's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition they have and should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.